This is the time that was noticed and posted for this special meeting of the Board of Supervisors. It's Monday, October the 24th. It's 2:00 p.m. We're in the Board of Supervisors hearing room on Melody Lane in Bisbee. Just a couple of housekeeping items. For the safety of everyone that's in here, with those of you that are standing in front of the doors, please move to another location. If people need to leave, they should be able to have access. So don't stand in front of the doors. There's still room at the back and next to the wall. The next thing is, this is not a rally. This is a Board of Supervisors meeting. And so I'm going to ask you that those of you that have signs, I'll give you this one chance to hold them up and show everybody that you have a sign. And then I'm going to ask you to put them under your chairs. Okay. The TV and everybody in the room now knows that you've got a sign, so let's put it under your chairs. I'm going to ask that you put it under your chairs now. I'm going to ask that you be courteous to each other as well as to the board members. We're here to hear what you have to say, but we need to do it in an orderly fashion so that everyone feels that they've been respected. Any item that's on this agenda is open for discussion and possible action, and we begin with the roll call. District 1? District 1? District 2, Supervisor English is present. District 3?
Supervisor Judd is present.
So we do have 2 board members. Members of the public may also attend this meeting by Microsoft Teams computer or mobile app, or by phone by calling 602-609-7513 or 888-680-6714, conference ID 392-434-924#. If you have trouble accessing this meeting remotely, call 520-432-9200 for direction. The board may permit public comment during the discussion of any item on this agenda. To speak on an agenda item, complete and return the speaker request form to the clerk of the board prior to the start of the meeting, and it has closed as far as us accepting speaker requests. We have 2 action items. The first one being to order a hand count of all ballots. It was brought to us by Ms. Judd.
Madam Chair, if I may.
Yes.
I received a text message from Supervisor Crosby that he is online and that he can hear.
Supervisor Crosby, are you present?
You'd have to press *6 to unmute yourself.
Yes. Yeah, try it.
Supervisor Crosby, are you present? Well, item 1, I'm looking for a motion and a second.
Madam Chair, I move that we order a hand count of all ballots cast in the general election to be held on November 8th, 2022, to be completed prior to canvass of election results.
I'm waiting for a second. Not hearing a second, then the motion dies. We have item number 2.
You have to stop.
Madam Chair, it was difficult to see, but it looked like what is Supervisor Crosby's number. And if I could speak, then this will probably hurry up. It looked like there was activity from that, and maybe we just missed a second there. So I'd ask that you ask again about the second and make sure
I
Mr.
certainly
Crosby
will.
could hear.
We have a motion. Is there a second? On item number 1, order a hand count of all ballots cast in the general election to be held on November the 8th, 2022, to be completed prior to the canvass of election results.
Madam Chair, if I may, I received a text message and it said, I hear second. I hear second.
We do that.
I understand. If we could just not hear from comments from the audience, we're trying to work through these issues. Thank you.
You have to understand it's not the problem of the board or the administration here that Mr. Crosby isn't here.
Okay, we can't hear you.
Yeah, well, we can switch phones. I was using my personal cell.
I am.
I think somebody maybe needs to unmute my personal cell number, which is 2703. I got one, but let me just put this. So what do you want to do, Rich? I was just talking to Mr. Watson. Okay, let's talk on this.
Madam Chair, you can proceed.
Okay, I'll call for a second. Again, we have a motion on the floor to order a hand count of all ballots cast in the general election to be held on November the 8th, 2022, to be completed prior to canvass of election results. Do I hear a second?
Chair is calling for a second on the motion.
On number 1? Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. That means that we can have discussion on the issue. So, first of all, I'm going to say to my fellow board members that election integrity is my goal, and I'm sure it's yours. However, my road to achieve this goal is different from yours. I personally believe the voting machines the board bought and the state verified are secure and accurate. This board has been told by the county attorney and the state elections director that your proposal for a 100% count of paper ballots is not authorized by the legislature as an action you can take. If you take this action after being told it is illegal, you cannot and will not be represented by the county resources. This means you as an individual will have to defend yourself in any actions that are taken as the state election director suggested. Please think about the consequences of this proposed action. You have both succeeded in making your public statement about wanting to change election procedures to a costly, time-consuming procedure that has no rules or regulations and that would take weeks to get results and be subject to human error. Take time to look at all the details involved in your request so you can pursue this concept with all the information. If the legislature finds this process to be the direction they want to go for all counties, laws will be passed. Process will be determined on how to accomplish, and then it would be legal. All 15 counties will follow the process. Right now, there is no law, no authority, and no process. I ask you again to reconsider taking this action today and to direct your followers to approach the legislature to make the process legal. We have several people who have wished to speak on item number 1 and have given us a speaker request form. We have several people who wish to have their name on the record for item number 1, for and against. The numbers of people that we have wanting to speak are over 50, probably close to 60. So we need to have a process that allows all of you to feel as though, remember, this isn't a play, and the people up here speaking should not be speaking to the audience out there. The audience out there isn't making this decision. The board is making this decision. So your information should be directed to us, not as though you're, in front of an audience, because the audience is this direction, and we should be hearing what your concerns are, either for or against. So these people that I'm going to be calling are in the exact order of when they sent in their request to speak. So that's the way that the items are set up. I'm going to call the first, usually I call the first 4 or 5. I'm going to go all the way down to 10, and I'll give you a minute to get lined up, and then we'll start the process. You'll see the red light that's over here. That'll give you your 3 minutes. If you don't wish to speak your 3 minutes, that's certainly okay with me. I think you're going to be saying some of the same things, but that's up to you whether you want to take the time or not, or you just want to make your thoughts heard for or against. So the first 10 people are Jennifer Druckmann, Fernando Jack Dona, Jeff Sturgis, Elizabeth Lopez, Alex Mulata, Jenny Walston, Yanessa Yazi, Oscar Cancio, Jose Marie Roldan Banuelos, and Joan Murphy. So if you would please line up in that order. Some of the people are on teams, and we begin with Jennifer Druckmann.
Jennifer Druckmann, Bisbee, Arizona. So, Ms. Judd and Mr. Crosby, are you willing to expose yourself to lawsuits in order to assuage your conspiracy theory constituents? Your Republican County Attorney and also the Secretary of State of Arizona have both told you that trying to institute a hand count is illegal. Our election system in Cochise County is excellent, and you should be promoting it as such. What do you accomplish when you undermine confidence in our election? It just feeds into the paranoia that Trump started even before the election occurred. In 2020, Steve Bannon said, Trump is just going to say he's the winner. He's going to say they stole it. It was all pre-planned. Instead of feeding into this, you should be promoting the excellence of our election system here in Cochise County. Many Republicans won in 2020, just not Donald Trump, despite multiple recounts. Please stop following this corrupt and compulsive liar. He is not worthy of your devotion. He knew he was lying, and he lied anyway. Are you anxious to follow his lead in light of where he is headed? Multiple federal investigations. I mean, how far from reality are we willing to stray? I know you care about our laws. I know you care about ethics. Why are you willing to let this man be your hero? If you've been told by the county attorney and the Secretary of State that what you're trying to do is illegal and you proceed to do it anyway, and then you get sued for it, are you going to do what Donald Trump does? Are you going to call it a hoax and a witch hunt? Many of us spoke already against this archaic idea of hand-counting ballots on October 11th at your meeting. During that meeting, there were many people in this room who, despite being repeatedly admonished by Supervisor English, booed, jeered, and generally disrupted people speaking with whom they did not agree. It was intimidating, and that's just what it was intended to be. It was a very disgusting display. When articles are written about the United States being in danger of becoming a dictatorship, this is what it means. It means that brute force has taken over public discourse. It means that if you express views that others disagree with, you'll be bullied, harassed, in an attempt to shut you up. Or if you're an elected official, you might get death threats until you can't take it anymore and quit. If Republicans can't win by any other method than intimidating, cheating, drawing up slates of fake electors, do it using force and violence, you know that our democracy is in danger. January 6th really proved that.
Madam Chair,
Thank you.
Next speaker is Fernando Jack Dona. Name and address, yes.
My name is Fernando Jack Donna. I'm a retired Master Sergeant, United States Army. I reside at 3856 Puerto Place, Sierra Vista, Arizona. Fellow citizens of Cochise County, I'm here to address the Board of Supervisors and the citizenry regarding an issue that is neither Democrat nor Republican in nature. It concerns every American citizen, voter integrity. Now, what I'm about to say may be concerning to my friends on the right, but this needs to be said. In regards to voting integrity, in particular ballots, I agree with Nancy Pelosi and our current Vice President, Kamala Harris. There is nothing wrong in questioning elections. That's protected speech under the First Amendment of the Constitution. On May 16, 2016, Nancy Pelosi posted on Twitter the following statement, quote, "Our election was hijacked. There is no question. Congress has a duty to protect our democracy and follow the facts." That message is still up on her Twitter account. Elected and unelected officials should not be vilifying half the nation by calling them conspiracy theorists. Obviously, Nancy Pelosi thinks there's something wrong with our election system, and I agree with her. Regarding our current Vice President, Kamala Harris, on August 15, 2019, she posted this message on Twitter, which is still up online. Quote, "The only way to protect our free and fair elections is by embracing hand-marked paper ballots nationwide." And then again, on September 5th, 2019, the Vice President said this on Twitter, which also is still online, and posted to her account. Quote, "This shouldn't be a controversial statement. The United States must embrace hand-marked paper ballots." Mr. McCormick in the back has a printout of these Twitter postings if anyone would like to see them. I believe all of us, Democrat and Republican, should follow their guidance. They obviously think something is wrong with these machines. Let's do this hand count in Cochise County and put the matter to rest once and for all. It is very suspicious to me that our friends on the left continue to block any effort at examining these machines. Unelected bureaucrats and attorneys whose role is solely to advise appear to be attempting to take over the lawful duties of the county recorder and the authority of U3 boards of supervisors. That must not be allowed to happen, as it suborns the will of we the people who elected you to represent us. In summation, my family has a long history of recognizing and fighting communists. My uncle, whom I am named after, PFC Fernando Rivera, was murdered as a POW at the hands of North Korean communists and under the guidance of the Chinese Communist Party. My father escaped the country, Nicaragua, that went communist. When they moved to take over a country via Marxism, the first thing they do is corrupt the election system. Once they get in, you cannot vote them out. We need to restore the integrity of our election system for ourselves and our posterity. I strongly urge you to vote yes and do a 100% hand count.
You're next.
Thank you.
I'm going to ask you to please refrain. Remember, this isn't a play. They're speaking to us, not you. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Jeff Sturgis. I live in Sierra Vista. I think I know how this vote will end. The proposal will not go through because it is illegal. What will happen if the legal advice from the county attorney's office is disregarded, along with the warning from our Secretary of State to take legal action if the proposal, which Supervisor English has called foolish, illegal, and ill-conceived, succeeds? If the county is sued, will Supervisors Judd and Crosby happily bear the cost of the suit or be happy to pass it along to taxpayers in our county? Supervisors Judd and Crosby should also keep in mind Arizona Revised Statute Title 16, Section 1004, which states that a person who at any election knowingly interferes in any manner with any law regulating the election is guilty of a Class 5 felony. Who honestly thinks that this illegal effort has anything to do with election integrity or establishing trust in the election process? These two supervisors have been working hand in hand with the County Republican Committee chaired by one of Arizona's fake electors, Robert Montgomery, who attempted to render the votes of over 10,000 Arizonans meaningless. We know from comments made by Supervisor Crosby and Judd that they have worked with the Cochise County Republican Committee to hatch this hand count scheme. We know from their remarks that Republican candidates Gail Griffin, David Gowan, and Lupe Diaz are on board with this plot. Many Republican election-denying candidates spreading Trump's big lie have refused to state that they would accept the election results if they lose the midterm election. They know any controversy over election integrity can be used as an excuse to challenge election results. This illegal scheme is nothing but an attempt to inject chaos into the electoral process and create doubt in voters' minds so that election-denying candidates can refuse to accept defeat if they lose. This call for a hand count is election interference, plain and simple. I think voters of Cochise County should keep in mind that voting this election is about our lives, and whether we want to live in a democracy or a dictatorship like Russia or China. Voting for any Republican in Cochise County this election is neither safe nor patriotic.
Elizabeth Lopez. I'm going to remind you once more that I asked you about the access doors, and some of you are still standing in front of the doors. So if you could please shift to the back of the room or somewhere else so people that want to leave have the right to do so. Elizabeth, go ahead.
My name is Elizabeth Lopez. I live in Sierra Vista, and I'm addressing my remarks today primarily to Supervisors Judd and Crosby. I'm a law and order progressive voter. I value the rule of law because it's the only thing that stands between us and an authoritarian regime. It's the only thing that protects us from tyranny and violence. And I am grateful to our county attorney's office every time that they stand up for the rule of law. But it seems that our two supervisors are thumbing their noses at the rule of law with this illegal hand count scheme that's been hatching around our state. Recently, Mark Fincham and Carrie Lake lost their lawsuit to have a total hand count. I can't understand why you feel the need to inject chaos, fear, and doubt into an election that's only 2 weeks away. You say that a hand count will assuage people's fears? Well, yes, the very fears that your party has instilled in them through baseless lies. Meanwhile, Republican candidates say that they will only accept the election results if they win. They cannot and will not accept the rule of law if they lose. And what have we seen from MAGA Republicans who disregard the rule of law? Chaos, insurrection, violence, baseless conspiracy theories, and fake electors. Yes, fake, because despite what Robert Montgomery claims to know about the Constitution, it's all based on a big lie. A blatant disregard for the rule of law incites this bad behavior that we're witnessing here today. Your Republican constituents are so full of doubt and fear of our elections that it seems that nothing will reassure them. What we are witnessing is a troubled relationship with the truth and an unwillingness to accept the rule of law. No wonder people are afraid and angry. It's on your party. Thank you.
Alex?
Good afternoon. Thanks for your time. My name is Alex Gulata. I'm the Arizona State Director for All Voting is Local. We have about 40,000 people statewide that rely on us for good information about voting rights. I watched the YouTube of your work session, and I really appreciate that you took the time to do that. And at the time, it seemed the community was evenly split by phone calls, by emails about what to do about this hand count. But there were some troubling things in the work session. There was a discussion about how the people bringing this forward were heroes and other people were the opposition. That doesn't really sound like we're trying to bring the community together. That sounds like us and them. There was a discussion about the fact that this was illegal, and then a push to just call a vote and worry about the legality later. Also, does not seem like the kind of attitude we have if we're really trying to bring the county together. But what's worse was a lack of recognition of where this fits in the statewide and national context. And here's that context. This is from Business Insider, January 29th, 2022, interviewing Representative Fillmore about HB 2596. Fillmore said, quote, "We should have voting, in my opinion, in person, one day, on paper, with no electric means, and hand counting that day. We need to get back to 1958 style voting." And that's what this is about, okay? This is about getting back to 1958 style voting. He said the quiet part out loud. And 1958 was when politicians picked their voters, when mainly white men decided who would be allowed to vote and whose votes would be counted. But today, I think we all should believe that the voters pick the politicians and not vice versa. So and the reason that I think you should be concerned is this is the first step. This hand count, it's part of the one day, one vote movement, which is the 1958 style movement. And from the work session, your recorder talked about precincts again, because it would be easier to hand count if we went back to precincts, small precincts. He mentioned that it would cost more to hand count, but if we got rid of the machines, we'd make that money back up. It would be offset by the cost of the machines. So a plan to do away with the machines completely. A willingness to overlook illegality. That's 1958. That's not 2022. And finally, the offhanded revelation at the end of the work session that the 140 people who had been recruited were all Republicans. Okay, how is that ever going to be fair? That's 1958 style voting. So we want to vote for an America where voters pick the politicians. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Janessa Yazzie. I'm a field director with Arizona Center for Empowerment out of Douglas. I'm here today speaking on behalf of not only the hardworking and dedicated team of canvassers present here in this room, but also for the youth, students, working adults, and the first-time voters that were deliberately left out of this space in order for this agenda to be passed. Early voting started in Arizona nearly 2 weeks ago, and some counties are already processing ballots. Appending the administration of an election that has already begun not only risks instilling chaos and confusion, but will waste taxpayer resources and threaten both accurate counting of votes and the timely certification of election results.
Jenny, was your name Jenny?
Janessa
Janessa?
Yazzie. Yazzie?
I had the wrong name on here. I was calling for Jenny Walston, and she's on Teams. Go ahead. Jenny Walston, are you on Teams? Okay, I'm going to move on then. And we've heard Janessa Yazzie. Oscar, go ahead.
Hello, my name is Oscar Gancio from Douglas, Arizona. I'm here on behalf of my community. I'm here for my future. I am here because of the countless students, youth, and working adults and first-time voters that were deliberately left out of this space to pass this agenda. I am a first-time voter in this community who has looked forward to this time and feel that it is wrong to implement a change when one is not needed. When facts and statistics are in favor of highly intelligent and non-fraudulent machinery being used to count votes, it is insane to oppose against it, especially when there is less than 2 weeks away from elections and important deadlines. Hand counting votes is shown to be impractical. A system where votes are being processed and counted by its intended time with zero to none to no issues is being subjected to bias and manipulation for our voices to be silenced by higher powers dawning over us. The County Board of Supervisors are adding even more doubt and barriers to the election system. How are we supposed to make a change in their country where the people meant to aid it are just considering a change that will only instill in confusion, waste our taxpayers' money, and inject inaccuracy to our votes and voices? It is unacceptable that the County Board of Supervisors is considering delaying the counting of votes and the shattering of our voices. Firsthand, I have seen the issues we conform to and the silencing of our voices that are subjected to, and this change will only add to this problem. I hope hearing this stops you from considering making this change that can and will affect countless votes and voices.
Jose Maria Roldan Banuelos. No? Okay. Joan Murphy. While Joan is getting ready, I'm going to read the names of the next 10, so we'll give you a little more time, Joan. Rodolfo Valencia. Marco Villalobos. Alejandro Leyva Quinn. David Medrano. Heather Borman. Penny Sharon. I'm not sure how to pronounce that. Sheoran. Elizabeth Bernstein. William Michael King. Stephanie Edith Coronado. And Pitza Romero. Are you not in the audience? Second to the last name. William Michael King. Stephanie Edith Coronado. And the last one was Pitza Romero. All right, go ahead.
Okay. I'm Joan Murphy from Sierra Vista. My remarks will be brief because I didn't prepare a lot of talking points because logic doesn't seem to have anything to do with this decision or this idea. I've come more to tell you that I'm thoroughly disgusted with the shenanigans that you Republican supervisors are conducting. There is no need for a hand count. It will not satisfy the election deniers. You do not have the authority to do so, and yet you persist because it is in the Republican handbook. It is a means to sow chaos and distrust in election proceedings. You should be ashamed for following along with Montgomery, Griffin, Gowan, and Diaz and doing such a disservice to the constituents that elected you. I know that you think you are being heroes. You are not. You are trying to disrupt the election process, and that is both morally and criminally wrong. I sincerely hope that you pay for your actions.
Rodolfo, please, quiet. Please be quiet. All right, have you calmed down enough? We can hear Rodolfo Valencia, please.
Hola, mi nombre es Rodolfo Valencia, yo vengo desde Dallas, Arizona, vivo aquí en Coaches College, en Coaches, y vengo a hablarles sobre la decisión del condado con respecto a la cuenta manual de votos. A mi punto de vista, el uso de herramientas tecnológicas sería mucho más práctico y verídico debido a que una cuenta manual es mucho más tardada y riesgosa debido a que un ser humano es más propenso a cometer errores que una máquina no cometería. Adicionalmente, el uso de maquinarias permitiría un sistema más práctico y eficiente, ahorrando así innumerables cantidades de dinero y sobre todo de tiempo valioso, así como también prevendría algún tipo de controversia, tales como fraude electoral, dando como resultado una elección más refutable y justa. Espero que mi punto de vista los pueda hacer razonar y sobre todo considerar no votar por este cambio.
Thank you. Next speaker is Marco Villalobos.
Good afternoon. My name is Marco Villalobos from Douglas, Arizona. I'm actually a first-time voter. And concerning the decision of the county board, this will not only affect the refutability of the election result, due to its unreliability and high probability to present errors, but it will also waste so much time and money for the government that could be just facilitated and easily verified through the use of technological machinery for more accurate results. Thank you.
Thank you, Marcos. Next, Alejandro Leyva Quinn, or Quen. Did I mispronounce that? C-U-E-N? Alejandro Leyva Quen. David Medrano? David Medrano? Heather Borman. Heather Borman. Penny Sharon. Penny, S-H-E-O-R-A-N. I don't want to mispronounce it and not give you the opportunity.
Thank you. Can you hear me, Chairperson?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairperson. My name is Penny Sharon. I'm the president of the League of Women Voters of Arizona, speaking today against agenda item number 1. The League urges the Cochise County Board of Supervisors to vote against agenda item 1, and please stop this misguided and illegal proposal for a hand count of all ballots cast in Cochise County in the November 2022 elections. The Secretary of State, Legislative Council, and Cochise County Attorney have repeatedly stated that Arizona law forbids this proposed hand count. This proposal will not survive a court challenge, and the county will have spent taxpayer money to break the law and further undermine the people's confidence in elections. Even if this plan somehow survived a lawsuit, it would be impossible to find and train enough workers in 2 weeks to meet the deadlines for finalizing results under Arizona law. A group of untrained people thrown together to count tens of thousands of ballots is a recipe for inaccuracy, fraud, and delay, which is the exact opposite of what Cochise County residents and all Arizonans want in their elections. The board must not allow politically motivated efforts based on a false narrative of stolen elections to interfere with our long-standing legal and effective ballot tabulation processes. Instead, the board must commit itself to a proven process that works and ensures free and safe elections and vote against this proposal. Thank you for providing the league an opportunity to speak.
Next is Elizabeth Bernstein.
I'm Elizabeth Bernstein. For decades now in Cochise County, I have been a poll worker, a poll observer, an early board worker, and a participant in the hand count that occurs after every election in Cochise County. I even wrote a piece about the hand count 8 years ago for the Herald Review because I think it's something that many more people should know about in detail. It happens after every election. In a presidential election year, it always includes the presidential race. In both presidential and midterm years, it also includes 4 other races which are randomly selected. So it doesn't count every item on the ballot. For example, I've got a ballot with 27 different contested matters on it right now. But it counts a random selection of state candidacies, federal candidacy, and ballot propositions. And when I say random, I don't mean computer generated. I mean that representatives of the Republican and Democratic parties physically draw lots. They also draw lots to select which polling places in the county and which batches of early ballots will be hand counted. If there were ever a mismatch between the hand count and the machine count, then additional polling places would be randomly selected and counted. But that has never happened. And thanks goodness we have always had paper ballots in Cochise County, always. We've always been able to do the check, and it always comes out right. The procedures are very careful. The county attorney's office has been there supervising on the times that I've been involved. There are Republicans and Democrats at every table. When ballots need to be moved, for example, from the locked room where they are kept to the election workers, the ballots are accompanied down the hallway by representatives of both parties. So I heard somebody say today that people who oppose this item are opposed to any kind of checking of how the machines are working, and that is completely untrue. We have an excellent method of checking whether the machines are working. What we're talking about now is attempting to scale up these procedures enormously. There's talk of hundreds of additional volunteers to do a complete hand count in multiple locations. I think at this late date we are inviting chaos and risking compromising all those safeguards that we have in place. We've never before had hundreds of members of the public knowing before the election how the candidates and propositions were faring in early voting. And I want to say that there's been something said about this being a test of our emergency backup plan, but our emergency backup plan is not hand counting. We've used our emergency backup plan 8 years ago, and it involved getting assistance from Graham County. I also think that, I also want to mention that apparently there was some thought that Attorney General Brnovich would come through with an opinion supporting this, but apparently that has not happened. And I'm concerned that we won't get our votes in time if we wait for this hand count to complete.
Next one is Michael King. No, please, no.
Greetings. I'm Bill King, and I'm from Sierra Vista, Arizona. I'm here personally, and I'm also here on behalf of LUCA Arizona. It's a nonprofit organization. LUCA stands for Living United for Change in Arizona, and it's an organization led by change makers fighting for social, racial, and economic transformation. We're committed to human dignity, inclusion, equity, and collective growth. We work to reclaim our shared power alongside our families and community. I am presently leading a team of about 20 people who are canvassing all of Cochise County in terms of getting out the vote, and especially in favor of Propositions 209 and 308. Some of those people are here today. Lucha, Arizona, and I personally object to the proposal that's set forth in item number 1 for the following reasons. First of all, it will require a substantial amount of man hours in order to process this hand count. There's not enough people to do so right now. It's been estimated to take over 2,500 hours. That could cost in excess of $100,000, which is something that this county could use for other purposes. They will also delay the certification of the votes. Machine processing of votes, as stated by a number of people, is the best way to go. It's the most accurate, and it avoids the possibility of loss of ballots and denigration of the integrity of ballots. The Secretary of State, as you all know, and is indicated by the chairperson, advises that this proposition is against the laws of the state of Arizona, and if the proposition should be passed, then there's certainly be litigation initiated by the Secretary of State, and it's going to result in a lot of legal fees. Fortunately, as indicated by the chairperson, the cost of those legal fees in the event that the proponents lose would be borne by them. It wouldn't be borne by the county. The voting results of the last election were audited. As you know, they spent a lot of time doing that. They hired a special firm to come in and do that. And the outcome of that audit was that the results of that election were completely verifiable. There wasn't any evidence of fraud. And you've all seen that on TV. The conspiracy theory, which I think is underlying this proposal, has also been debunked. And for those of you who are current with the news, you'll know that that conspiracy theory that our election equipment is essentially subject to hacking and corruption, and that theory has been debunked in its entirety. So, in conclusion, I would request that this proposition be denied. Thank you.
Stephanie Coronado? Stephanie Coronado, are you online? Not hearing from you, then we'll go to the next one. Kitsia Romero. Kitsia Romero, are you online? No? Okay. All right, let's do the next 10. If you could come up quickly. Elizabeth Vigora. Joni Giacomino. Tricia Giradette. Margaret Foley Case. Elizabeth Tyndall. Susan Lynn Dalby. Barbara Jennings. Joel Levine, Radford Hyde, and Richard Allen McGaugh. Elizabeth Segura. Online?
Star 6 that mute themselves. If they can.
If you're online and you're muted, star 6, please. Okay, we'll move to the next one. Joni Giacomino, are you online?
Yes, I'm online.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, I am pretty much addressing Mr. Crosby and Ms. Judd having to do with hand counting in Cochise County. If you do not realize at this time that hand counting is not only detrimental to the process, but it is also going to make the integrity decline, then you are completely out of touch. In the Arizona Revised Statute 16-452A, it states that after consultation with each county board of supervisors or other officer in charge of elections, the Secretary of State shall prescribe rules to achieve and maintain the maximum degree of correctness, impartiality, uniformity, and efficiency on the procedures for early voting and voting and of producing, distributing, collecting, counting, tabulating, and storing ballots. Not only has the county attorney and state election officials informed you both that a hand count would be illegal at this time, so has the Secretary of State. So do you not understand the chain of command that is in place that you are required to follow? You should also reference 16-452C, which states a person who violates any rule adopted pursuant to this section is guilty of a Class 2 misdemeanor. The agenda references ARS 16-602B, but fails to include the line that hand count shall be conducted as prescribed by this section and in accordance with hand count procedures established by the Secretary of State in the official instructions and procedures manual adopted pursuant to the section 16-452. Is this deletion intentional to be misleading for justification of an illegal hand count? What part of the Cochise County Board of Supervisors being specifically instructed not to have a hand count by the Secretary of State and state elections official do you both not understand? The fact that the county attorney has advised you of the illegality of this move and you both are choosing to ignore legal counsel only supports the premise that neither one of you understands your role or the duties of your job. This shows that neither one of you are fit to continue to hold office and should resign your post effectively and immediately. Your actions are not good for the county constituents, but only for your own personal agenda, and that is not a requirement in your job description. In closing, I would hope you rethink your actions and vote accordingly to the legal guidelines prescribed to you by state officials and legal counsel. Thank you.
Tricia Girodet.
Good afternoon, Supervisors. Tricia Girodet in Sierra Vista. I came with some questions, but you answered them before I even got up here. And my biggest question was whether or not the county taxpayers would have to bear the cost of any suit that apparently might very well arise from this action if you move forward with it. And so I hope the answer is a deterrent to Supervisor Judd and Supervisor Crosby, and that they will reconsider their support. I also want to point out, for those who may not follow all the activities of the Board of Supervisors, that you have a regular meeting tomorrow, and one of the proposals on the agenda is to accept $1 million in taxpayer money to work on paper ballots, of all things, that would be run through tabulating machines. So, on the one hand, you're saying you don't trust tabulating machines, and on the other hand, you're going to accept a grant to work on that. or at least it's proposed on the agenda. So that seems ironic to me. And lastly, I hope that this will be voted down, and let me suggest a compromise, which is that if people really think that counting by hand is more effective than machine tabulating, let them engage in it, but do it in a more leisurely fashion, and do not stress everybody, including your staff, by trying to make it official by the Canvas date. So instead, just do it, but do it later. Thank you.
Margaret Foley case. Margaret Foley case. Next would be Elizabeth Kendall.
All right. Good afternoon, commissioners. So we've already beat the lawsuit horse here, so I'm not going to go down that road, but I am glad to hear that the county will put that straight on the two commissioners that have decided to continue with this farce. So I would like to address that we've been told that there's 100 or so volunteers that are vetted and trained for this. Who exactly are these people? Who exactly vetted them? And who has trained them? Because I don't have a lot of faith in election deniers who believe in Italian satellites and Chinese bamboo fibers training other election deniers who watched a bunch of weird YouTube videos at 2 in the morning. I don't trust them with my ballot, and no sane Democrat, Independent, or Republican would either. We've also been reassured that there must be plenty of Democrats willing to participate and ensure that this is a legitimate count. I don't know where they're expecting to find them. I'm the Democratic chair in this county, and there has been no outreach to me asking to coordinate or help in any way. So no one involved in this process has made any good faith effort to assure us that they will be fairly administered and that every table will have both Democratic and nonpartisan members. So even if this goes forward and there's boards with Democrats and Republicans, I know for a fact that a hand count will be inferior. The great thing about machine counting is that machines don't care what name is next to the bubble being filled in. But when you put human beings into the process, they're going to have a natural subconscious bias. And
You lost.
To us, and we have the right to a fair and unimpeded election.
Pardon me. I apologize for the interruption, Madam Chair. We lost audio on Teams. Can we just take a moment before, and we'll reset the speaker's time.
I can need to have a little recess until they get the audio on Teams working again. Ms. Delby. What? No.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
the speaker is working now.
Okay, would you quiet down? Please, quiet. Go ahead, Ms. Dolly.
I'm going to start over. I am representing 39 at least people from Portal, my town, a very small town north of here. All of those people, and a lot of others probably, oppose these measures to hand count ballots. Our right to vote and our democracy are precious to us, and we have the right to a fair and unimpeded election. We are angry that our elected officials are attempting to undermine our voting system, knowing full well that what they're planning is illegal according to Arizona law. We drove 2 hours to get up to this meeting because we won't stand still and watch this happen without speaking up. These officials are entitled to their own personal beliefs, but they have to have forgotten their duty in this room is to represent the people who elected them, not to further their own political agendas. This is a political stunt, pure and simple, and it endangers the integrity of our election. That's all I have to say.
Barbara Jennings. Barbara Jennings, are you online?
I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, perfect. I want to applaud Mr. Crosby and Mrs. Judd for wanting to hand count as a security measure to make sure that these machines are working correctly. I feel that it is very shameful that Americans have so devalued one of the most important decisions we have to make, which is choosing the leader of our country. I am from Maricopa County. I helped out at the Arizona audit in Maricopa County. When people sit here and come up and say they are election deniers, that is such an insult. I saw with my own eyes the fraudulent ballots. I saw the boxes that had been open only containing 2 ballots. We had a lot of issues in Maricopa County, and it is unfortunate that our board of supervisors weren't brave like the 2 of you to stand up for an honest election in Maricopa County. We had many problems. And unfortunately also because of the media that refuses to acknowledge the findings in the audit, that people still claim that our 2020 election was okay. It was not. And I don't understand why people are so against doing a second measure to make sure that the machines are calculating the votes correctly. I mean, we had the whole Sharpie issue here. We've had many issues. And in August, I mean, people talk about the Secretary of State, Katie Hobbs, who sent 6,000 federal ballots instead of regular ballots, who did not provide enough Republican ballots in Pinal County. These people who have been running our elections are not doing a good job. So people who say that, Katie Hobbs, that she says this is unlawful, I think it deserves a full investigation of whether it is, because certainly she has participated in many unlawful things regarding our elections, including the fact that we still don't have a 2022 election manual because everything she wants to put in it is leading to election fraud and stealing our voices and stealing our votes. It is so frustrating to be part of Maricopa County Board of Supervisors to see how they reacted to the 2020 election. You want to talk about wasting money? How much money they spent fighting against just handing over the ballots. If there wasn't anything to hide, they shouldn't have wasted so much of our tax dollars fighting at every step of the way. And we still haven't gotten all the information that we were supposed to receive for the Maricopa County. So I just want to say that Cochise County should feel so proud of the 2 of you and feel fortunate that they have people who will stand up.
Next is Joel Levine.
Thank you.
Have I not asked all of you to please be quiet and courteous? Remember, this is our meeting, not yours.
Maybe security should move to the back of the room.
Quiet, please.
Good afternoon. My name is Joel Levin. Live in ghost town of Gleason and Elfrida. And I'm retired, representing only myself. Last night I watched the video of the work session from a couple of weeks ago, and I was extremely disappointed in a lot of the things that happened and a lot of things people said. First of all, from my own personal experience, it's easy to look at the laws and the statutes and bylaws of things and say, this says you can do this and this says you can do that. But if the lawyers tell you that there's something about the whole body of law that says, no, you can't do it, you should probably listen. Okay, that's one thing. The second thing is, well, I should say that I have been since all three elections of 2016, I have been a volunteer poll worker, and I am still. I was last in this room on Wednesday doing the training. And I understand how it works, and I understand how Ms. Mara and Ms. Rodriguez work, and I am incredibly impressed with their integrity, and I'm impressed with the procedures they've set up, and I'm impressed with the fact that they have done a hand count of a random selection of ballots from a random selection, well, all of the ballots from a random selection of vote centers and a random set of races chosen not by them, and the results have always been 100% accurate. That is a check on the system. You don't need to hand count all the ballots, especially if it's going to take you 8 days longer than the statutory limit of presenting the results. Okay. Finally, there was another thing. I shouldn't say finally. I might think of something else. Mr. Stevens last night presented a nice example of how you could have a counting center in Benson, and there would only be this many votes to count. Well, we have vote centers. If I vote my vote in Benson, it'll still be an Elfrida vote, and it won't be an Elfrida where the Elfrida voters are being counted. So having all these counts in real time of ballots as they're being processed at a vote center is nonsense, because you can't get you don't have the ballots that correspond to the location where they're voted. That's one of the big advantages of the vote center system. You don't have to go to a particular place. You can go to a convenient place. And the handling of the ballots, which I might add, are paper. The mail-in ballots are paper, which 80% of Arizonans seem to think is a pretty good way to do it. The in-person ballots are on paper. Those are paper, and they are maintained. So we've got paper ballots. You're only questioning how they're counted, and the machines are trustworthy. Okay, I didn't mention, no, never, okay, fine.
Okay, Radford Hyde.
My name is Radford Hyde. I live in Sierra Vista. I'm a professional penetration tester, a hacker. I support a 100% hand count of ballots. I have a Bachelor of Science in Information Technology. I've worked in IT for the past 30 years and cybersecurity for the last 15. I have 5 professional cybersecurity certifications, including Certified Information Systems Professional, GIAC Security Leadership Certification, Certified Ethical Hacker, and GIAC Penetration Tester. I can definitively say that any computer is compromisable. In fact, it is my job to compromise machines, especially with physical access to the machine and readily available tools. It is routinely child's play. There is only one way to be sure the machines are counted and intended as intended, and that is to verify by hand count. We are already counting 2% of the ballots, I believe, and this effort I support will just increase that to 100%. I was witness to and a victim of human error during the 2022 primaries. While in our training session before the primary election, as instructed, I cast a training ballot for myself. The trainer who had told us all to not worry about our training vote said the machines would be cleared out before the general election. They weren't. I also cast training ballots for other people by searching random names as practice. When I went to cast an actual ballot at the primary election, I was told I had already voted. I had to vote provisional. The explanation I got later was they were told that the machines that they were supposed to be cleared out were not, and that the elections department people laid the blame on, quote unquote, a contractor company that was supposed to do that work. This is a fine example of how human error can jeopardize a person's ability to cast a legal ballot. My wife, who worked at a different polling location, had her ballot declared spoiled, and they allowed her to cast a regular ballot. There were several points to be made here. This proves that there was not a defined policy and procedure that was to be followed in how to handle these anomalies. They were unprepared to deal with those issues. If I had not attempted to vote in person but turned in a mail-in ballot, would it have even counted at all? What about all the people that did not attend training but we voted for in training by randomly selecting names from the search list? Would they have had their ballots counted? Trust but verify. There was no verification. Verification must be done to ensure all legal ballots are properly counted. How can anyone think verifying legal ballots is bad? Please vote yes on the 100% hand count effort.
Richard Allen McDonald. Are you online, Richard Allen McGall? Okay, the next ones are Allison Holzer-Morris. Excuse me, Pamela Gravely, Timothy Lutz, Daniel Wood, Brian Steiner, Onda Junks, Jill Hamilton, Robert Paul McGrew, Sr., Gisela Aaron, and Stephanie Stevenson. Okay, Allison.
My name is Allison Morris. I'm from Portal, Arizona. I've learned a lot today. And I'd just like to say what an incredible waste of time I think this whole procedure is. What you're doing is against the law. It's unfair to voters. And I'm just stunned that we're all sitting here on a lovely day wasting this precious time. And in the future, your own money, presumably, if there's a lawsuit, and the time of extra workers, presumably to count ballots by hand. We have a system in place that's been working. We trust, most of us trust the system. It has been shown to be true and valid. It shows integrity. Our poll workers have integrity. I think you've heard about the checks and balance, the checks that happen with the counting, hand counting afterwards. I really don't know why there's even a discussion. Thank you.
Pamela Gravely.
Good afternoon. Thank you. My name is Pamela Gravely, Sierra Vista, Arizona. As we are all aware, votes were not zeroed out of the computers before 0600 on primary election day, disenfranchising many voters, causing some to get irate as it showed that they had already voted and perhaps some legal votes did not even count. This was an error, and situations like this need verification. I support 100% hand count. I personally witnessed and was a victim of this error. As a poll worker, I also saw computer software abnormality, as did many other poll workers. In the afternoon, approximately 1 p.m. or so, the tablets processing, the speed slowed down, and the cloud icon on the top of the screen showing connectivity changed. This indicated that something was talking to the computer tablet. The question is, what? Following this update or communication or whatever it was, voter records were coming up wrong. Voter records were coming up wrong. After scanning of a voter's driver's license ID, their voter information showed an inaccurate birth date. The birth month was showing month 19. At least one other location saw this, to my knowledge. Obviously, this is inaccurate. It happened over and over and over again. Numerous poll workers experienced this. It happened at different polling locations. Why? What in the world happened? Wasn't the system supposed to be safe and secure and accurate? I thought our data was protected and not connected to the internet. We were told as trainees that the voting system was not in any way connected to the internet. Okay. Why then did such inaccurate information show up on our computer tablets? I didn't see this error in the morning. Was the network actually connected to something it should not have been? Was there an error in the software programming? Was there an update that updated improperly? The big question is, what else could have been changed that didn't appear on the computer tablet that we saw as poll workers? This leads to a ton of doubt and obvious software and hardware malfunction. It's imperative that we do 100% hand count. We must count every legal vote. It doesn't matter whether you're a Democrat or a Republican voter. That's completely irrelevant. What is relevant is that Cochise County ensures that all legal votes count. It's our absolute duty to our voters, no matter their party affiliation. Please vote yes for 100% hand count on the votes to verify that the current computer system is tabulating correctly. Trust but verify. Thank you for your time.
Timothy Lux?
Yes, Madam Chair. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. My name is Tim
Could you
Lux.
hold
I'm
on,
here in
please, just a
Tucson.
minute? Could you hold on? Okay, there seems to be a black suitcase that's been left in the lobby. If one of you would please go claim it so that we don't have to take everybody out of the building. Thank you. Okay, Timothy Lux, are you online?
Yes, ma'am. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Go ahead.
Okay. Thank you. My name is Tim Lux. I'm here in Tucson, Arizona. We have been fighting the electronic systems here in Pima County, and our efforts seem to have fallen on deaf ears. Naturally, I would expect a large number of the left to show up and protest this action that is being proposed. We had many anomalies with our test session prior to our primary. We had many anomalies with the machines during the primary. And now we have certification issues. Are these electronic devices actually been certified? I am a 35-year retired IT professional. My last 13 years, I was a database administrator. I would like to remind those on the left that in our past, several Democrats have challenged the results of elections. This is not a party issue. This is an integrity issue. And so all those that are protesting this on the left, what are you so worried about? And I want to let you know that should you be sued, I will be the first to donate money for your defense. I applaud your efforts. I fully support your desire to hand count the ballots, and thank you for your time.
Next is Daniel Wood.
Good afternoon, Cochise County Board of Supervisors. My name is Daniel Wood. I come to you today by the grace of God Almighty, knowing this, as it is written in the Declaration of Independence, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. To the all Board of Supervisors in Arizona, I believe with the fullness of my heart that the people's life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness have been severely compromised. This is due to an illegitimate and at times tyrannical government. For some time now, the people of Arizona and throughout this nation have attempted to provide all branches of our government with evidence of an unlawful and unconstitutional electoral process. This was because of an unlawful voting machines used in the state of Arizona throughout the U.S. For voting machines to be lawfully certified, the laboratories who certify all electronic voting machines under federal and state law must be accredited. There are no exceptions to the law in this electoral process. When all ballots, or even one, is entered or print from an unlawful certified electronic voting machine, the ballot becomes an unconstitutional vote. It is a vote not by the people, but by a private company and by those who conspiring with these private companies, conspiring to deprive the people of their right to vote. Deprivation of rights under the color of law and under U.S. Code 42, 1983 and 1985 gives the people of this great nation a remedy to severe encroachment of our individual rights as provided under the First and 14th Amendment. Here I stand in front of you, the Board of Supervisors, who against all great opposition from both sides are standing strong in their service to the people. I can tell you, as a Marine combat veteran and prior law enforcement officer who has faced fear and has looked into the face of death with courage given to me by the grace of God, I say to you, we the people see you as warriors seeking righteousness in a corrupt government system. Know this, all men and women serving people under the Constitution of the United States, we the people stand with you. So as it is written by our Lord and Savior, I leave you with this. Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged, for the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go. Stand firm and praise the Lord. And may God bless America. Thank you.
Brian Stein. I'm going to ask you once again to hold your applause and hold your comments. Brian Steiner.
Again, my name is Brian Steiner, and just showing you, this is the certificate of conformance that the machines are currently using. I'm good. And what I want to point out here is that on May 3rd, 2019, this is when this was done, and it was done by a gentleman named Brian Newby. And I'm going to show you that it was done by SLI Compliance, did the certification. Here it says that this lab was accredited to certify the certificate of conformance for the machines that are being used in this county. Then what I'm going to show you is the certificate of accreditation for SLI Compliance at the time that it was certified in May of 2019. It didn't exist. So the only time that it did exist is when it started to exist. It didn't exist in August of 2020. It didn't exist in December of 2020. This is simple contract law and potentially consumer fraud. So then what we have, SLI Compliance finally comes up with a certificate of conformance, but not after an affidavit was put in to reveal the violation. So here we have Brian Newby again signing it. And according to the VSTL manual, he's not the right person to sign it. That's not a binding contract to make this legal. That's invalid on its own. So we also have, here's the date of when it was supposed to be. It says January of 2018. This certificate is only allowed to last for 2 years, and then it goes away. So after this was put in January of 2021, they go and extend it to 3 years. So here's the certificate that the voting machines are certified under by this non-accredited lab, because this document would be false and invalid. So that's where we're at. So according to, if I can read the statute for you, ARS 16442B, machines, and I'm almost out of time, but what I'm going to say is machines may only be used if they are if they are certified by an accredited lab. They cannot be used if they're not certified by an accredited lab. This document, one, what didn't even exist, it should have been shown, and then when it did exist, it was fraudulent. Here's the new one, and without, I'm going to lose time, it also isn't valid. It's invalid because it has the wrong signature. Here's the excuses that they came up with. COVID-19 was the reason why. COVID-19, these certificate of accreditations were due long before COVID. If they would have done that, they would have been.
Onda Jones.
Thank you.
Onda, are you online, Onda? Okay, we move to the next one. Jill Hamilton.
Jill Hamilton. I live in Hereford, Arizona.
If you could bring the speaker down just a little bit so it will.
Shortness?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
I live in Supervisor Crosby's district. I'm sorry, I can't look at both of you. There's some things that have been said. Actually, I was thinking human error. We're all wanting secure elections, but human error, I think I put in to discuss item 2, but some of the things I have to say overlap, so I'm going to go right ahead since called. I think there's things that the one question I wanted is I'm flabbergasted that the board did not know that there was going to be an election this November 8th as long as a year or two ago. And now at the 11th hour are cognizant of that and trying to change the rules of the election. I think Ms. Bernstein has stressed how there is backup counting, and I think shall versus may in some of the language of these agenda items, and law and order, and not the TV show, is that the actions are that we are going by the laws and the order in the way we have it now. And if those need to be changed, it does not need to make the chaos of being changing the system at the last minute. I think that is not law or order. I am supportive of the staff, the recorder, and the election people that run these elections. I've been a county resident living, working, and voting here for 30 years, and I don't think we have that. So I think if you want to look at this for another election or the state laws or whatever, that is the process. And I think both agenda items going shall rather than may negates trying to do that law and order process. I would think the process should fulfill itself a legal and orderly process, and do not vote to corrupt the lawful and orderly process. Thank you.
Robert Paul McGrew. Robert Paul McGrew, are you online? Robert Paul McGrew. Hearing none, we'll move to Gisela Aaron.
Good afternoon. My name is Gisela Aaron. I'm from Pima County, and I'm here to support the supervisors, the two that want to hopefully go for a 100% hand count. Thank you. I'm sorry to inform you that the election equipment software and tabulation currently in use in Arizona in all 15 counties are not legally certified as required by state law. Arizona chose to incorporate into their statutes ARS 16442B, the third of 4 categories of the Help America Vote Act, which states requires testing by a federally accredited laboratory. Well, Mr. Schaefer has, and some of the gentlemen here have shown that they have evidence that this is not true. I do too. When I heard that these laboratories are not federally accredited, I looked into it about half a year ago, and I found a letter from NTS laboratory in Huntsville, Alabama. And they stated in that letter that that was March 13, 2017, notifying the U.S. Election Assistance Commission that they were voluntarily withdrawing from their role and responsibility as an independent voting system test lab, VISTL, at the end of March 17. The Secretary of the State at the time should have looked immediately for another federally accredited testing lab. She chose to neglect this important requirement, and they are still not in compliance. I don't know why. The Secretary of State has not contracted with the federally accredited lab. She chose to neglect this and willfully disregard the Arizona laws and statutes, and even CISA deems the election equipment as a critical infrastructure. This severe neglect of duties renders the elections in 2018, 2020, and if we use them again in 22, invalid, null, and void. I'm asking you to please, don't use these non-certified, unlawful election machines, and if you do, at least have a 100% hand count. Please, to do this, to promote voter trust and integrity, please choose wisely. Thank you.
Stephanie Stevenson. Stephanie. All right. Well, Stephanie's coming up. If the next 10 would get ready, please. Joanne Kerr, Joe Gilliland, Michael Brown, Claudia Thomas, Laura Jeanette Davy, Dan, looks like Lachana, C-H-A-W-A maybe, Dan Lachawa, Madeline Wolaski, Roland Baker, Faith Ramon, Clyde Morris. All right, go ahead, Stephanie.
Hey, my name is Stephanie Stevenson, and I'm from St. David, and I'm a little nervous. This is the first time I've ever done this. I've heard a lot of grandiose things being said, but I'd like to bring it down to a little bit of reality. I'm a voter here in Cochise County. I've already submitted my ballot, vote by mail. I want to thank the state and the county for letting me vote by mail and let me use a drop box to drop it off. 80% of us in Arizona do vote by mail, and I do appreciate, because I do think that voting should be accessible for as many people as possible. I oppose this resolution. First of all, people have addressed the legality, but I think it's frivolous. We have an election in 2 weeks. This will not improve accuracy. We have accuracy and backup in place. It will be expensive in time and dollars. Again, it's 2 weeks before an election. Many of us have already voted. And finally, it's a political stunt. And I think you know that. It does not serve the best interests of Cochise County voters. And I think that's the bottom line. It does not serve the interests of the voters. Also, as far as the stunt goes, and it's just a tactic to delay. And I think as a county voter, I have the right not only to have my vote counted, I have the right to have that count turned in a timely manner. Okay? If we want to talk about the political aspects, I think this is just trying to get the toe in the door. If you listen to what Mark Fincham, candidate for Secretary of State, says, he actually opposes drop boxes that are not attended. And he was asked by Jen Fifield, a reporter for the Arizona Republic. He says that that's, if an unmonitored drop box breaks chain of custody, just a mailbox. He says mailboxes shouldn't be legal for voting because, quote, they are served by a union that endorsed Joe Biden and the DNC. So now he's saying that post office workers are not reliable because they're union workers? Where does it stop? I do know one thing, this is where it starts, and I oppose it.
She didn't go over her time.
I know, Madam Chair.
Yes.
Madam Chair, from the audience, someone yelled time. And that's when. So if she wishes to, if you wish to speak, I pause.
You finished, did you not?
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you. But I would prefer if the audience didn't yell out, because we have a timer. The timer is up here. You can see it. When it goes to orange, that means that they have a minute left. When it goes to red, it's over. So we don't need you telling them. Okay? Thank you. Joanne Kerr. Are you online? Joanne Kerr. Okay, Joe Gilliland.
Good afternoon. It's been a very inspiring, amazing time for me to see this large group of people who are concerned about the rights of voters to vote and the rights of voters to have their vote counted legally. To me, the question that comes before my mind more quickly is that the forces or the factions of the Republican Party that have been most interested in hand counting the ballots and doing all are the same group of people that have been trying to limit the number of people who are allowed to vote. This is the fundamental issue is the right to vote for all the people, of the people, by the people, and for the people, not just the selected people, not just the best people, not just the nicest people, not just the richest people, not just the busiest people, but all the people. We are seeing a division that has happened so rarely in this country since the Civil War. We had actually every effort that was being made to make the vote for all the people actually exist for all time. The voting rights bills of the 1960s, the constant attention of the people to spread the vote to the people, to make sure that we are not being hypocritical when we say justice for all. Justice for all, the word all means all, not just select group of the selected people and the nicest people. So therefore, this is the most important time of my life in voting, because my first vote for president was in 1948, and I voted for Democratic. And sometimes I was disappointed. Sometimes I wished they would recount. Sometimes but the law was carried over and over again. When Kennedy won, Nixon had a reason to doubt, and then Gore had a reason to doubt. But they didn't doubt, they didn't insist, they didn't rebel, they didn't fight. And what we're seeing now is a blatant hypocrisy of people who call themselves patriots, questioning the right of their neighbors, the right of all the people, the right of everyone to participate legally and factually for themselves and for the country and for all the people. So I do believe in a justice for all. I do believe in a constitution. I do believe in the fact that we have existed for this amount of time, and we are being threatened at this time by forces that call themselves a party. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Michael Brown. No applause, please. No applause. Michael Brown.
Michael Brown, Sierra Vista. Most of my questions and thoughts have been
already spoken.
Have been stated. I do have a concern of my tax dollars wasted on this. The lawsuits are coming. That's going to cost us money. There's 2 lawyers here. That costs a lot. October 5th, 2020, no one questioned the Cochise County election security, integrity, or the vote tallies. In fact, most of you were happy about it. Votes here. It wasn't until one loser began a false claim the voter fraud, which is just snowballed for 2 years. And we need to stop this nonsense. The voting was fair, secure, and Cochise County handles it well. And we do vote with paper ballots. And that's all.
Thank you. Claudia Thomas.
Hello, Claudia Thomas, Sierra Vista. I'm here today to express profound opposition to the hand counting of ballots that's being proposed. I've been a resident of Cochise County for 20 years, regularly vote by mail, and have never had any concern that my votes were not being accurately tabulated by machine, whether my candidates won or lost. What does concern me deeply is the alarming fact that the Republican candidate for governor, Kari Lake, has stated that she will accept the election results only if she wins. What does concern me deeply is the alarming fact that the Republican candidate for Secretary of State, Mark Fincham, participated in the violent January 6th assault on our nation's seat of government in an effort to block the peaceful transfer of power and Congress's certification of Joe Biden's presidency. What does concern me deeply is the alarming fact that the Republican candidate for U.S. Senate, Blake Masters, is campaigning on the lie that the presidential election was stolen from Donald Trump. What does concern me deeply is the fact that the chairwoman of the Arizona Republican Party, Kelly Ward, and her husband, Michael Ward, were among the fake electors whose arrogant goal was to disenfranchise the 1,672,143 Arizonans who voted for Joe Biden. What does concern me deeply is the alarming fact that Republicans in the state and around the country are promoting the dangerous fantasy that any election they don't win is stolen. And what does concern me deeply is the absolutely craven disregard for the democratic norms that underpin the stability of this nation. I don't believe that any of us here is naive enough not to recognize this push for hand-counting ballots as anything but what it truly is. Beyond an unnecessary and scandalous waste of taxpayer money, it is an illegal attempt to exert Republican control over the voting process and to further their campaign to convince us that our system of voting is corrupt. Those who vote decide nothing. Those who count the vote decide everything. That's a quote attributed to Soviet dictator Joseph Stalin. And if that's the playbook Republicans in this country are taking their inspiration from, then God help us all.
Laura Davey. Laura Davey, are you online? Oh, you're here. Okay. If you could be ready quickly, remember we've got a lot of people to go through and we want to give you your opportunity.
Thank you. First of all, I'd like to ad lib here. I'm very grateful to the poll workers who spoke about the very secure ways that the elections are run. I've done that job. It's amazing to learn how accurate and nonpartisan it's accomplished. I'd also like to say that the machines are faster. They're more accurate. They cost less. Test samples are done to assure counts are accurate. Ballots still exist. There is a paper trail for any needed recounts or audits. County's test machines run audits, samples, and issue reports on accuracy. Here in Cochise County, the report on the accuracy of the machine-counted ballots from 2020 showed automated counts performed splendidly. Congratulations to our elected officials. Suddenly, machine-tabulated ballots are not good enough. Suddenly, they got bad. Human eyes can make a lot of errors looking at tiny filled bubbles on ballots. The human mind sometimes deceives and can see what it wants to see, real or not. Machines don't make those human errors. I'm going to slip over here. Hand counts are very slow, expensive. They can be accurate only if all the people running them, overseeing them, participating are dedicated to truth, honesty, and accurate reporting. Sadly, hand counts can be polluted by partisan actors with partisan goals to supersede accurate results. Okay, there have been some IT guys here talking about computer glitches. Ballots were, says already voted, but those people got to vote provisional ballots and it got sorted out. Years ago, in a small community where there were no machines, everything was hand counted. I participated in a count where the count manager, partisan who was on the phone with his party state headquarters all night, wanted us to fudge the numbers when his candidate for Senate was losing. He was not the only county manager in the state that was told by his party to pressure counters for results. Machines do not respond to such shenanigans. There's an old adage, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I would add a corollary. Unless the intent is to fix, to assure results what one group wants as opposed to what the majority of voters selected. Thank you.
Dan, Lachama? A chance, I'm sorry. Dan.
We citizens never were asked if it was okay to impose these machines on our voting system. Not one of us, not Democrat, not Republican. No ballot measure. Why? We have ballot measures every year, lots of them, for to do this or to do that, to allow the citizens to weigh in. But in this case, we made a drastic major change to how we do the vote without allowing the voters to vote on it. There are concerns of election integrity everywhere. Let's listen.
You can even become the nominee, and you can have the election stolen from you.
You win with Russian interference.
That's a real thing.
No,
but rightly.
I think he's an illegitimate president that didn't really win. So how do you fight against that in 2020?
You are absolutely right. He's an illegitimate president in my mind.
Could you be my vice presidential candidate?
Folks, look,
I absolutely agree.
okay, I'm going to stop that real quick, but I've got 11 more minutes, but I obviously don't get 11 minutes. But the comments were all from Democrats, and they included Hillary Clinton, Kamala Harris, John Lewis, Dianne Feinstein, Barbara Lee, Jerry Nadler, Karine Jean-Pierre, Deborah Wasserman Schultz, Kareem Brown, Alcee Hastings, Bill Clinton, Terry McAuliffe, Barack Obama, and so forth and so forth and so forth. It seems there are only horrible issues of election integrity when the Democrats lose. Otherwise, they are the safest and most secure elections in history. And we should sit down and shut up. But I'm not sitting down and shutting up. Obama got 69 million votes and 360 electoral college votes in 2008. No screams of integrity. Obama got 10 million fewer votes in 2012 and 332 electoral college. Republicans accepted the vote. 2016, Trump got 62 million votes and 304 electoral, and there was massive crying, massive gnashing of teeth from the voters on the left who don't want the vote to be validated and who don't want integrity. 2020, Trump gets 75 million votes, most ever by an incumbent by a huge margin, yet somehow just hush, Republicans also lose the House and Senate. Isn't that amazing that the Republicans lost every seat of power in 2020 to wreck our country and our lives, as we have seen over the past 2 years? We've watched what they've done to our country. We are way past due, Board of Supervisors, to verify our elections with a purposeful 100% hand count. And I certainly hope that you guys will explain how you're going to do it to these people who don't know.
Right. I really don't want to have to clear the room, but I will. Do you hear me? I will clear the room if you don't quiet down. Because Ms. Judd and I and Tom, even though he's online, are here to hear these people. We didn't come here to have a circus. So We know there are people on both sides of this issue, but they should be speaking to us. So calm yourselves down. Madeline?
My name is Madeline Boleslawski. Sorry you couldn't pronounce it. Nobody can. I go by Maddie. Originally, I came here about 7 years ago. I was a nurse, a trauma nurse back in Wilmington, Delaware. I worked at a very large hospital, Christiana Care. And, you know, when I saw the headline up there about a hand count, I don't have all these statistics or cards or anything like that to show you. The only thing I know is that the job that I had for 30 years was I had to verify whenever I gave medicine to a patient. During my college years, that was the one thing that was drilled in our head on and on and on and on. Verify. You couldn't just walk into a patient's room and just hand them medication. You had to verify that that was the person you were giving it to. If not, you could destroy a person's life by not verifying. When I came out here to Arizona, I fell in love with it. Believe me, the weather in Delaware is very bad. But when I came out here, I thought, you know, I'm going to get involved. I got involved with search and rescue. Hopefully I never had to save anybody in this audience. But I wanted to be involved with the community. That's what I want. And so once I finished that up, you know, then I became a poll worker and I saw how, you know, everything functioned. But the thing is, guys, we are creatures of habit. We verify everything, whether we go to a bank, we verify the amount of money we're handling. If we go to a restaurant, we verify the receipt we have. I don't understand why you're all fighting. Verification, hand count, where is that harming anybody? When you talk about the length of time of you know, getting this information, they don't start serving until January. But guys, thank you for listening. I really appreciate it. But I don't see anything wrong with verifying. I did it for 30 years. I never gave out a wrong medication in the whole time I was a nurse. Thank you for listening.
Roland Baker?
Sorry. Good afternoon, supervisors. Good afternoon, Madam Chair Ann English, Supervisor Peggy Judd, and Supervisor Tom Crosby. I drove down here 2 hours from Tucson, Arizona, because I thought this was so important for us to talk to you about what's going on in the state of Arizona. Supervisors Judd and Supervisor Crosby, I urge you to please vote no on making Cochise County to mandate hand ballots. This is an illegal act, only to end up in court, where they will also deem this illegal and force Cochise County to pay in the millions, because this will not be accepted by the courts. All you have done is waste money to severely needed people in Cochise County, and you've made a fool of Cochise County and Arizona again nationwide. Fellow citizens of Cochise County, this is not democracy at work. This is autocracy. This is an illegal action. Will Supervisor Judd and Crosby be willing to personally be sued by the state of Arizona? Will they pay for this illegal scheme like the terrorist insurrectionist Donald J. Trump had to pay to Arizona $7.5 million for the Cyber Ninja Maricopa recount that not only proved the machines work, but they found an additional 630 votes for Joseph R. Biden. It was the fake Cyber Ninja forensic people who found the 630 votes. It cost the terrorist insurrectionist Donald J. Trump $7.5 million to prove that the 2020 election was honest. Did you hear that? It cost $7.5 million for a fake forensic audit. I ask Supervisor Judge and Supervisor Crosby and this audience, how much waste of our precious tax money are you willing to throw away for some constricted, contrived, completely erroneous lie? For those of you still under the fallacy that there was something wrong with the 2020 presidential election, I have a question. Why did you accept every GQP who won across the U.S. and Arizona? The only one you didn't accept was the guy at the top, the insurrectionist at the top. Pretty interesting. I see you, Supervisor Judd and Crosby, for the destructive individuals that you are willing to destroy a fair election. That prior to the terrorist insurrectionist Trump began the big lie. Do you not see the absolute harm you're doing? But after 11/9/2016, it's been very clear that honesty, integrity, mostly honor, is long gone with that terrorist Donald Trump. And all who continue to follow him, woe to you who continue this farce.
Faith, Ramon. Faith.
Come here, right to Tucson.
Please come on up, Faith. Don't wait till she walks away. And the next one in line, Clyde, if you'd be ready when they finish.
Okay. Skikdash, Cochise County Board of Supervisors. My name is Faith Ramon. I am the Tucson community organizer with Lucha. For the past 4 years, I've been fighting alongside Living United for a Change in Arizona and our sister organization, Arizona Center for Empowerment, advocating for social, racial, and economic justice for all. Our team has organized in Cochise, Pima, and Maricopa County, registering over 22,000 registered voters as an organization. We registered over 80,000 voters across the state as the collective. People are excited to vote. However, the same people who want to hand count the same delusional people who are creating confusion in the voting process. The Board of Supervisors need to have some guts and stand against these delusional individuals. Trying to confuse our voters, we need to stand up against false narratives and create a trust in our process. We already wasted taxpayers' dollars because of these individuals. All Americans want a timely, accurate election results. Arizona's voting machines are secure and accurate. It's been proven time and time again. A hand count will introduce human errors into the process, which will turn both elections integrity and voter confusion. It's unacceptable that the Cochise County Board of Supervisors is considering delaying the counting of voters, wasting tax dollars, and instilling confusion and doubt into the election system. We're 2 weeks away from election. Come on now. We hope that the Cochise County Board of Supervisors will have good standards and of our hard-earned tax dollars, and listen to the council and its own attorney. We as taxpayers should not be forced into this situation. And so I'm asking you to do what's right and not what's forced. Thank you.
Clyde Morris. Clyde, go ahead. Again, no clapping, please.
My name is Clyde Morris, and I live in Sierra Vista. Thank you for letting me address you today. I read in the Herald that this meeting was canceled. I thought the two commissioners who were proposing the hand count had heard from the county attorney and secretary of state that the hand count would be illegal, so they had chosen to obey the law. Then I learned that the newspaper was wrong. These two commissioners were going to try to break the law by hand counting our ballots. I was shocked. But then I learned that they were working with a fake elector, Robert Montgomery, who broke the law as part of our last election. Together, they and certain other right-wing extremists are making another effort to upset our democratic process, just so their party will win the election, no matter what the true vote turns out to be. They are following the plan to implement the big lie again. During the 70s, I served with the Peace Corps in Honduras, Central America, when the country held their first democratic election for many decades. The Peace Corps told us to hide because Honduras had no tradition of fair elections like we did in the USA. Fear and doubt were being spread among about that the honesty of the election and the loser of the election might contest the results. Turns out the election process was expected, and there was a fair transfer of power. Even Honduras was able to use our example of following the legal process and accepting the outcomes of the election. We in the USA have conducted fair elections that were respected by both parties. The lax election was the first time certain members of one party illegally tried to change the smooth transfer by claiming without evidence that there were problems with the election process, the big lie. Now we have an example of two of our county commissioners trying to claim without evidence that a hand count would be more accurate than using machines. They are so afraid of the true results of a fair election, they are trying to sow doubt. They want to let a selected group to hand count our county's ballots so they can claim irregularities of the results, even though the facts are that the computer count has been proven more accurate than the proposed hand count. Back in the 70s, we saw Honduran politicians spread fear and doubt about the elections, but the country rose above it. You are now acting illegally, just like we used to accuse Central American republics doing. Shame on you for valuing your hold on political power more than our long-standing democratic process. The hand count is not going to make the process more certain and fair. It's just your plan to continue the big lie. Can you raise above these self-centered political actions to hold an election at least as good as they did in Honduras in the 1970s?
Thank you. The next 10, if you would come forward, please, quickly. Pale Kiabu, Stephen Crone, Robert Montgomery, Fred Miller, Kim Depew, Tamara Ray Birch, Dirk Sigler, James Crawford, and William Michael King. All right, Keel.
Chairman English and members of the Cochise County Board of Supervisors. So prior to automation, there was 100% hand count of all candidates on all ballots. I've heard a lot, so I'm not sure if you're aware that machines aren't 100% accurate. There was a vote in a primary this year, District 2, DeKalb County, Georgia. So what happened in that is, so this District 2 in DeKalb County, there are 159 counties in Georgia. This is in only one district. It's like a supervisory district in Cochise County. All District 2 commissioner candidates' machine votes totaled changed after the hand count. Michelle Spears, the eventual runoff winner, went from third in the primary to first. Originally, after the machine count, she had 3,031 votes. After the hand count, she got 6,651, more than 100% increase. More than 100% increase in the hand count over the machine count. Lauren Alexander came in second in both counts. Her count increased by 350 in the hand count. Marshall Orson, the top original vote getter, who did not make the runoff, went from 5,226 votes to 3,928 votes. He went from first to third, and he lost over 1,300 votes. How do you lose 1,300 votes? The machine had to assign votes that weren't for him to another candidate. In addition, the hand count total for all District 2 candidates after the hand count came to 15,449. The machines originally counted 12,639. 2,810 votes weren't counted by the machines. Is that accurate? It's more than 18%. The final vote was 18% more than on the primary day. Now, one thing I'd like to also address is one of the things that we all need to look at is federal registration. Federal registration does not require ID on it. If you don't have ID, you can write none, and the Secretary of State must assign you a number. So you don't have to be a citizen to vote register legally to register on the federal form, but it can be done. And it won't be caught until IDs are checked for everybody that registered to vote. Thank you.
Stephen from?
My name is Stephen Krohn, and I have my Master of Science in Computer Science. I understand computers pretty well, and the previous gentleman who have talked about how easy it is to change things in the computers. All you have to do is write a little bit of code, and they've even had a Democrat who wrote a lot of the code to change votes within like Dominion machines, ESNS, that we use here, many of the others, and had been used around the world. They had him on one of the shows talking about how he wrote the code to make the machines assign like a 49 to 51%, pick the winner basically. But here in Cochise County, I have records of the exact time and IP address and the MAC address of the Cochise County election machine on which the votes were changed from Trump to Biden. I don't know exactly how many of them, but I know which IP address in China it came from and their MAC address. I would be more than happy to share this information with your IT people and let them look at it. Everybody on the Democrat side says it's been debunked. Debunking doesn't, in my mind, entail sticking your head in the sand and hoping that it all goes away. And nobody in the Justice Department, in the federal government, has even bothered to look at any of the evidence. And there is mountains of evidence, 3.5 terabytes of packet captures from the 2020 election that nobody has even bothered to look at yet, aside from a few computer experts out there. So we had some callers from Pima County that were talking about which way you should vote in Pima County in the 2020 election. They had 47,372 votes flipped from Trump to Biden, which is far more than was necessary to invalidate Arizona's elections. And there were even many, many more than that in Maricopa County. And they found a lot of the evidence of that in all of the ballots that had no folds in them, that had never been processed. They said they were mail-in, but didn't. Anyways, I hope that you will vote for the hand recount. We need it. It's too easy to fool the machines. Thank you.
Robert Montgomery.
There we go. Chairman English, could I first verify that Supervisor Crosby is still in attendance?
Supervisor Crosby, can you verify that you are still with us? Supervisor Crosby, *6.
I'm with you, and I'm on Teams on the computer.
Okay.
Very good. Thank you. Okay, can I start now?
I thought you had started. Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Robert Montgomery, 9710 Hannah Street in Palominas. And I have done many of the 2% mandated hand counts for the last 15 years. I have trained others to do it, recruited others to do it. I can tell you it is an easy and simple process, and it can be done in any expanded form, regarding which, in my position as chairman, I get contact and information from across the state, from office holders, lawyers, judges, candidates, and the last 2 weeks I have been inundated with that information concerning this very issue. And every one of them agrees there is no problem to expand from 2% to whatever percent the supervisors choose, and that includes 100%. There's nothing to block that. It's completely available. And I would like to suggest beyond that, we do have a Secretary of State in place today who will not be in place after November the 8th, especially in January when those seats are changed. That individual will be long gone, and her replacement, I can promise you, will be in 100%, 180-degree opposition to what she is stating today.
and that person will support a hand count improvement. So where goes your letter of complaint from Katie Hobbs? I think it goes in the bucket somewhere. And the right of any supervisors to promote this is absolutely doable, and it will happen. So the method is, what is the problem? What's the worry? It's just a verification. It's a double checking, and anybody can do it. I'm one of the 160 now volunteers. I can get you 300 if you want. And of course, Democrats and non-parties and independents are all welcome. So even those who are not registered at all can participate in the hand count. You can sell 300 million Powerball tickets on Saturday night, and 2 hours later, they'll know who won it, where it was, what store, what time of day, and it'll be on video. I don't think we have 300 million people in Cochise County, but if we do, we could hire those folks and we get it done immediately. So I'm going to leave you with that. It is easy to do. Stay tuned. I'll help you learn how to do it. We can have sandwiches and snacks.
Brad Miller, please.
And proceed.
Brad Miller.
Well, are you still there, you guys? As a former business owner, I pay attention to how our public money is spent. And you, the Board of Supervisors, decide how our tax money is spent by approving the county budget. And proceeding with opting for vote counting by hand is financially foolish and a burden on taxpayers. It's very, very costly proposition. With 2 legal opinions against hand counting of ballots, plus the threat of a lawsuit by the Secretary of State, it's really clear that if you go forward, you will commit the county to spending thousands of dollars in legal fees. That's taxpayer money. It's not your money. That's the taxpayer money. In addition to innumerable hours of staff time, this really is a waste of our tax dollars when money is pretty tight here. And it might be likely your own tax dollars. I mean, your own personal dollars that might be at risk from what I've heard. By considering this action, you're also saying to county employees that you don't trust them, that they are incompetent to run an election because we got to check on them. That's what you're saying by saying, I got to check how these people are doing it by hand. That's the worst kind of message an employer, and you folks are the employers of our county employees. When you suggest counting votes by hand, that's exactly the message you give, that you don't trust these people. That's not the kind of leadership that you should be providing. And I'm surprised that Supervisor Judd and Supervisor Crosby did not know that there's a hand count to check on the machines, that it's 2%, that's a sampling. Everyone knows what sampling might be. And I'm hoping that you'll withdraw your suggestion rather than going forward with your proposition. And that said, I would join those that want hand counting against machines. If you'll turn your attention to grocery register software, there's some hinky stuff there. I'll be glad to join you there. Thank you.
Tim Depew.
Good afternoon. Supervisors, our elections are in trouble. When our elected and hired public servants gather their defenses against our concerns, suspicion grows, and so here we are. Daily reports of problems across the country with election systems alarmed us. Cochise County has had a few problems which we trust are corrected, but 80% of our ballots are floating around in trucks, mailboxes, cars, garbage cans, and who knows where. This does not instill confidence. You supervisors are trying to respond and being met with resistance. Suspicions started with grant monies funneled into political and election offices to get out the vote. But we know which votes they want to get out. Cochise County didn't get any such funding. We're consistently Republican and too small to bother with. This atmosphere of confusion leads to questions about registering, voting, counting votes, drop boxes, mailed ballots, and the process in general. To berate us with the safe and secure mantra is fuel for this distrust.
A hand count is where we chose to be involved. We are citizens, not troublemakers. The Secretary of State's office claims a total hand count is illegal. She intends to sue and then recover her costs by something called fee shifting. And she, not having the integrity herself, to recuse from this situation while on the ballot. The radio and TV today stated we intend to supersede the machine count with the hand count. They use the public spaces to spread their misinformation. Our newspaper of record in this county calls our effort to restore trust in our elections idiocy. You see how this power at any cost game is played? There is a detailed process in place to hand count during the canvass. It happens at every election. Arizona revised statutes require that a hand count shall be performed. Machines may be used, but a hand count shall be undertaken. We're only talking about one thing, one minor thing. Which percentage? 2%? 100%. The margins of error are clearly defined as to how the final tally is reported. This legal posturing is a smokescreen for something insidious. Will the Cochise County Attorney's Office defend its client? You, the supervisors? Mustn't he? Ms. English, I implore you, join your colleagues. Present a united front in reassuring us. Thank you.
Tammy Birch. Tamara Birch. And next, Dirk Sigler.
Good afternoon. I hope you can hear me. And thank you for listening. I expect your respect. Thank you. I'm a concerned, my name is Tamara Birch from Bisbee, Arizona, Precinct Don Louis. I am concerned, as many of us are here, we believe in our voices to be heard and respected. I've been a hand counter. I know what the process is. I know how long it takes to verify the hand count with the machine. I just can't tell you that the difference between 2% and 100%. We have 2 weeks until elections happening on November 8th. So my specific concerns about the hand counts are timing. With so many ballot styles, precincts, hundreds of hours would be required to hand count the ballots. This is unrealistic. The errors in the process of the sample ballots being counted are human errors. We have to do it over again if it doesn't match the machines, okay? Legality issues. We must respect the rule of law. As the county attorney and the Arizona Secretary of State says, this action is illegal. We may have to face the consequences of a lawsuit. Who can we, the taxpayers, expect to pay for it? Ourselves? Why should we bear that expense? Then the issue is security and equipment. How can we ensure that there'll be security with the machines, the safety of the equipment? How will they be maintained? The training, if you have over 100 Republicans, how are those people going to get trained and know what the procedures are? I suggest that the elections department be the most qualified to take on this added task. They're busy. Costs. The volunteers say, oh, they'll do it for free. Well, I don't think the law states that if they can do it for free. Venue, where would it be? How many places would it have to be done? What about the equipment? A full hand count is unnecessary. We all want to stop this chaos and disinformation. We want our votes to be accurate and accounted for. Please respect each other. Please respect what's been done. I respect Lisa Mara beyond anything I can tell you. She's integrity and experience personified. Thank you.
Dirk Sigler. Dirk Sigler.
I don't have a lot of prepared remarks. I just heard about this last night, and I agree with Dr. Joe, who spoke earlier saying that we all should be applauded for showing up today. I think this is a real plus for democracy. I don't know who said it, but the democratic process is a messy process, and That's the way it should be. You know, we should have a lively debate over how our elections function, and I don't think anybody disagrees with that. However, I think that this move to, and by the way, are we talking about both items now, or are we just talking about one?
Item 1.
Are we going to go through the whole process with 2?
Yes.
Okay, well, I guess I'm commenting on 1, but I think it also carries over to item 2, which I think these are very political moves by the board, by whoever these forward. And I think they're cynical moves. You know, this is a measure that is trying to get nationwide attention. It's trying to get media attention, who is here today. And this will be reported on, and we'll start the process all over again of, well, we can't trust the electoral process. Well, the fact is most Arizonans do trust the electoral process. Most of us think, I think 80% of us, we vote by mail. Let's keep it that way. And unfortunately, I think this effort is potentially a slippery slope where we begin to erode the process as it exists now. Clearly, there are doubts about whether our County Board of Supervisors is the appropriate body to bring about any sort of decision in this regard. It should be left up to the state election boards. This is how it works now. It's working reasonably well, but it's not perfect. We all know this. This seems to me to be a remedy in search of a problem.
James Crawford.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I want to thank the Board of Supervisors for the opportunity to speak briefly to you today. As you can all see, the main reason we're all here is trust. I'm certain that every one of us in this room has been betrayed by someone close to them or even by some organization that we highly respected. It amazes me how trust can be severely damaged or completely destroyed in an instant, and yet take years to be restored, if it can be restored at all. I know all of us have our own opinions on whether the elections past were stolen or not. But as I've gotten older in my life, I would not be surprised if it was, and admit my trust in our election system has been damaged. I have a saying that I share with my friends and colleagues. The older I get, the more conspiracy theorist I become. Why is that? It's because more and more I see lies, corruption, and deceit all around me. We've all heard it said earlier today, and I agree. We need to trust and verify. So what can be done to try to restore that trust in our election system here in Cochise County? We can start by approving agenda item 1, and I'll add item 2, in order to hand count all ballots in the general election. Sometimes one has to go the extra mile to restore trust. This will be an audit of the current system. It's not to replace it, but it's a verification of it. And I truly hope that if this is approved, that the hand count matches the voting machines 100%. That may not restore my trust in what took place in the past, but it will restore my trust in the process currently. If they do not match 100%, then we are obligated to find out the causes of the discrepancy and take actions to correct them and prevent them from happening in the future. Therefore, I strongly urge the Board of Supervisors to show everyone that you are willing to act in good faith and set a good example to the rest of the counties in Arizona and in the U.S. by approving this agenda item. Thank you.
Did I call William Michael King? Are you here? Are you online, William Michael King? I don't hear and I don't see them here. So now is the time that I think we're going to take at least a 10-minute break. So if you want to, the restrooms are in the lobby. If you want to walk around a little bit. If you'd come back, I thank you for being mostly courteous, and we'll expect you back in 10 minutes. If you could start moving back to your seats, please. Okay, I'm going to read out the names of the next people. If you could be quiet and hear me, Fred Otto, Stephanie Stevenson, Renata Dani, Joseph Patterson, Candace Kibel, Inga McCord, Carolyn Harris, Joy Banks, and Thea V. Before I go to the first one, Fred Otto, I have someone online who's been waiting. That would be Corey Lorick, excuse me. So if all you could take your seats, please, we'll continue with the speakers. I have someone online first. Just stay there. Yeah. Corey Lorick. Are you there, Corey?
Hi, good afternoon. I'm here. Thank you. My name is Corey Lorick. I'm the State Elections Director speaking on behalf of the Secretary of State's office in Phoenix, Arizona. As we have previously laid out, the current proposals to conduct full hand counts of the 2022 general election raise numerous concerns. Notably, hand counting is time-intensive and prone to human error. It would be impossible to complete an accurate hand count of an election with dozens of races on the ballot without redirecting critical resources needed to run this election and in time to comply with statutory deadlines, including the county canvass deadline. Even if these proposals were legal, it is too late to change election procedures without risking administrative error and voter confusion. Attempting to implement a full hand count at this late stage would jeopardize the county's ability to conduct a fair and accurate election. Today, the board was also put on notice that a complaint will be filed pursuant to SB 1487 if the board proceeds with these proposals. This complaint would require the Attorney General to investigate and could result in the withholding and redistribution of Cochise County's state shared revenue if the county is found to be in violation of state law. Arizona has rigorous standards in place to ensure that electronic voting systems are secure and accurate, including federal and state certification requirements, pre- and post-election logic and accuracy testing, and post-election limited hand count audits. We sincerely hope that the board will protect the integrity of our elections and ensure continued compliance with Arizona law by not proceeding with these proposals. Thank you.
Thank you. Fred Otto.
Hi, my name is Fred Otto. I'm from Sierra Vista. I'd like to first make a comment that I'm going to assume that we are all here with some passion because we love our country. And that sometimes causes us to have some conflicts because we have different ideas of how to get to a goal. But let us agree on a goal of having a fair and secure elections. I am concerned, as many speakers have shared, that trying to change things at this late date and putting the staff to that work seems like confusion in the making. So I would suggest be careful on that point. The next thing is the counting ballots by hand to verify a machine vote. You get to the end of the day, and I will disagree with the previous speaker, they will not match 100%. And then you will have to decide which one was right and which one was wrong. Even two hand counts are not going to match every time. There's going to be errors in them. I have an IT background, not maybe the same extent as some of the other speakers, but I use IT all the time. I've been involved with it for many years, and I do know that systems can be tested can be checked and can be used and can be considered reliable. If there is a problem, fix the system. Please address that. If there's not a problem, make the system better. They can all be made better. And there are issues with security. They were going to be with us every year. I came into this county in 1974. I think probably my first voting experience was in 1976 in this county. I have appreciated the current system where I can go in any place and vote. Please keep that up. And if we have more volunteers, open up more voting places. Be careful. There are countries I've lived in that do hand counting, and that leads to some problems. It's not a panacea.
Stephanie Stevenson. I'm moving right along here. Renata Dani.
Good afternoon. My name is Renata Daney, and I live in Sierra Vista, Cochise County, Arizona. I am addressing the board on the subject of hand counting the ballots after the election on November 8th, 2022. I believe in the integrity this would create since the fate of past election cycles. I also believe on the side with the error of margin with machines, especially if there was or would be any issue with them staying online or anything else that should happen until the polling site closes. I don't see why either side would object to such a move for hand counting of ballots. Excuse me?
Who's speaking? Can we shut them down? Go ahead.
Okay, of the ballots. I think it would prove to be a bipartisan and beneficial step in order to keep election integrity and to keep elections clean and transparent. There are individuals, myself included, that are willing to donate their time to hand count ballots after this election. There are those that only want fair and transparent elections. Thank you for your consideration for today.
Joseph Patterson.
Joseph Patterson, Sierra Vista, Arizona. Want to thank you for the opportunity to be here today and to present all these different opinions that we've heard. It's been very educating. For open minds, it's many things have been learned, I think, probably on both sides. One thing that strikes me that I would want to say and make clear that this initiative does not in any way change the election that's going to occur. As I understand it, the election will proceed and occur just like it always has. Machines will work. Everything will be done just like it always has. What we have asked for is to verify that by a hand count, checks and balances. If you need a reason for why we're requesting that, I think the reason is obvious in this room today. We're deeply divided people over this, and it doesn't have to be. It truly doesn't have to be. As the nurse pointed out, and in medicine, I know, I mean, verify. There's nothing wrong with that. We're not trying to accuse the county or the elections director of any wrongdoing in any way. We're not even interested in the elections of 2020, 2016. What we care about is today and our future. And no matter who I talk to on the subject, Democrat, Republican, we're all concerned about our future as we see what's happening. And we want to do something about it. We want to do something about it. Well, according to our Constitution, we have the power to do something about it. According to the Constitution, the people are the king in this nation. It's the people who are the king. And how are they the king? They're the king because of the power they have in their vote. Our votes are powerful. That is the way we influence action and try to change things to make things better. We need to protect our vote. If it's taken away,
Cabell?
we will become slaves.
Cabell?
Thank you.
Candace. Quibell. How do you pronounce it? I'm sorry if I mispronounced it.
That's right. Hello. I want to thank everybody for being civil through this. We all do love our country, and that's what we're here talking about. I thank you for that. I just want to say that I oppose this resolution. This is an attempt to do a hand count of ballots is part of a shameless and lawless attempt to install distrust, fear, confusion, delay, and instability in our local and national election process. The election process is the very foundation of our democracy. We here in Cochise County have always been a very diverse but tight, supportive, and caring community that I've come to love over the 25 years that I've lived here. But this stunt is designed to divide us. There is no voter fraud. This is an issue with no credibility. It is, however, a part of a national Republican extremist effort to create division, fear, hate-mongering amongst our citizenship. This political stunt is designed by extremist Republicans to pit our citizens against each other with the ultimate goal of destroying trust in our election process, and which is the foundation of our democracy. And ultimately, if our democracy is destroyed, our country will be destroyed. And one thing I would like you to keep in mind is that many of these extremist Republicans are actively pushing for civil war. Thank you.
Inga McCord. Next one is Carolyn Harris. Is that you? And Joy Banks.
My name is Inga McCord, and I have been a resident of Cochise County for probably about 38 years. And I have never doubted an election outcome. Maybe I'm a little naive, but until November 4th of 2020, I had ultimate confidence in my country being fair and certainly not corrupt. I was working at the Republican headquarters on the morning of November 4th as a volunteer, and 4 women came in from Santa Cruz County, and they had been kicked out of the Nogales polling station or polling, whatever, wherever you vote, what do they call it? Anyway, I was pretty outraged that they would have been thrown out, a group of 4 Republicans, by the Democrats. I'd never heard of anything like that before in my life, but I started hearing more and more on the boob tube about how people were pulling suitcases out from under curtains, et cetera, in the polling places. And I did begin to doubt that things were as I thought they were. So I began to experience a loss of trust in our whole voting system, our citizens, etc. You distrust. You can learn to just distrust a lot of things when something like that happens. There's an old saying, know the truth and the truth will set you free. I believe that the more we can do to ensure 100% reliability in our election outcomes, it's worth it. I don't want to, if there's a 2% random sample, maybe I don't necessarily believe that's fair and accurate, because precinct by precinct, the demographics can dramatically change. There's a lot of statistical information I was reading on the computer this morning about a 2% sample versus a 5%. I mean, every incremental increase, the reliability becomes higher. I want, as a citizen of the United States and a citizen of this county, I want 100% reliability in the outcome of my election. Otherwise, like people say all the time, I've been de-enfranchised.
My name is Carolyn Harris. I'm from Bisbee. I'm a patriot, and I'm a Cochise County voter. Currently, my faith in democracy is being tested due to your poor leadership. The peaceful transition of power is so important. Yet Mrs. Judd chose January 6, 2020 to visit D.C. Mr. Crosby appoints an insurrectionist to 2 important county positions in spite of what the Constitution states. Now you're going to mess with my ballot. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Stop degrading our democracy. No hand count of ballots. It's 2022. Don't take us back to 1958. What you're trying to do is illegal. I urge you to vote no. And thank you, Mrs. English, for already voting no.
Joy Banks.
My name is Joy Banks. I live in the unincorporated county. I think I checked the box not to speak, but I'll speak anyway. I would like to address Ms. Judd, especially as she is my supervisor for my district, and also Mr. Crosby as just holding to these things that are being expressed today about lacking trust in the elections. So as you two already know, actually this should be taken up at the state level, not here just 2 weeks before, an important election. They're all important, but this one too. So I think it's the wrong time for doing this, and I think everyone that wants 100% hand count needs to go and do this at the state level. That's the appropriate location and venue for your grievances as far as getting 100% hand count. I'm concerned with the fact that you're now actually breaking the law. You are actually in violation of something that the Secretary of State, including the call-in person, Corey, I think her name was, just said. And I'm concerned. I'm concerned about you, Ms. Judd, and Mr. Crosby. I'm concerned. I don't know. I have a sneaking hunch. Maybe some have offered. Well, someone did today, offered to fund your legal defense and all that. But think what you're doing. Think you are stepping outside of your appointed duties. You are. If you have a grievance of that magnitude, you must open some kind of investigation with the AG or something. Instead, the AG is going to be investigating you and us down here and how we do things. Okay, and I have one last point. I would like those deals with the voting, with the test votes, those days, those poll workers that had that to say. Please, let's have Miss Mara come or someone give us a report on what really happened with those tablets, et cetera, that were connected to the internet or something. I would like to hear from the elections department about that. Okay, thank you.
Tia, I don't have a last name, Tia V.
Thank you. I am going to read from my notes, but I also want to direct this comment specifically to Supervisor Jett and Supervisor Crosby. Supervisor Jett, if you look at me, I'm one of 600, I'm one of 60,000 constituents in this district, and I'm really disappointed. I have been voting for over 4 decades in Cochise County, and my parents prior to that. You know, because your family has been voting that period of time as well. You know that there's nothing wrong with our electoral system here in Cochise County. And I would like to read something. I do want to remind you that you were elected to represent the 60,000 voters in this county. You state, Supervisor Jett, that you're the rep of a small group and you will fight hard for the 140 volunteers, those who moved here from another state because they did not like the politics in their state. A yes vote is a threat to our democracy, causing confusion and chaos. We all know, and you know, Supervisor Jett and Crosby, that our county recorder, Republican Stevens, states it's already mandatory to count 2% of the votes by hand, but he wants to push for 100% of the ballots after electronically counting the votes, just like you do. This is the same person who has publicly admitted to human errors out of his office, errors affecting you and me. He states a mailing error affecting 11 precincts and 550 early voters for the active Manamich area proposition. That's a lot of people. And you also know, Supervisor Jett, that vote-by-mail ballots are already counted by hand. The recorder's office opens the ballots, verify the signature. Those ballots go to the elections department, where they do open the ballots and tabulate them. Somebody already knows what the numbers are prior to election day. One last thing. Joseph Patterson in the audience, the representative or spokesperson for the Republicans, states this issue is not about racism, it's about distrust.
That was the last
That mine?
speaker request form that, who are you? I don't have it.
Hey Siri. Hey Siri.
Okay.
Madam Chairman, my name is Michael Schaefer. I emailed a voter request form into your board email. I'm not sure why you didn't get it. May I have an opportunity to speak?
Madam Chair, if you want to take a brief recess, we can check on that.
Okay, I was going to say I have a lot of speaker request forms here, but they were not asking to speak. They just wanted their name read into the record in favor or opposed. So maybe you're one of those.
No, I wanted to speak, and I believe I completed the form correctly and emailed it in. It's Michael Schaefer.
It was after the time? It was after you submitted after the meeting had started?
No, I submitted it about 4 hours ago.
All right, I need some.
So if we take a break, I can get the list of names and we can address those issues.
Okay, those people that said they submitted and have not been called, if you would come up to the county administrator and give us your name, and we'll see if we can track it down. Okay, Mr. Schaefer, are you ready to speak? Mr. Schaefer?
Yes, Chairman, I am. Just unmuting my mic.
Okay, go ahead. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you. I want to thank Mrs. Judd, Mr. Crosby. American Patriots will see that you're represented. We appreciate your courage for verifying our elections. Know that your machines are not certified. We've been studying this issue for 2 years. I own an accredited lab. I know what it takes to be accredited. And I believe there's many people in this country and in the room that seek to take away our votes from us using in part illegal voting machines which have not been lawfully certified since 2018 and maybe before. With machines are not certified by an accredited lab, they violate. You're talking about violating the lab with Katie Hobbs. This violates ARS statute 16-442B. It also invalidates or goes against the federal law, Help America Vote Act, and our Arizona Constitution, which protects the people of Arizona and the civil rights and our vote. Only legal votes will be counted according to Article 7, Section 7. It also applies to as many as 34 states across the country who have adopted the HAVA Act. No one knows who was lawfully elected in the earlier elections. I speak on behalf of the people that are American patriots and both Republicans and Democrats who love our country. This is not a one-party issue. The people I represent believe that America comes first, and America does not belong to the world. It belongs to the Americans. We, the people, know what was done. Many of you know what was done, and God knows what was done. Anyone that lies to advance an agenda has evil in their heart. The lies are so apparent to us these days that it cannot be missed. Many people are standing by and doing nothing, like the people in Germany that watch their neighbors get carried to the trains. Many people are letting our country slip away and are ignorant, or they're closing their eyes as to what's been happening. We've been told lies like border walls don't work. We've been told lies like boys can be girls and girls can be boys. Our kids need to be vaccinated. Babies in the womb are not babies and can be killed in the womb and their body parts sold. Kids need to learn about sick sexual perversion in schools. Lies are necessary to advance evil agendas. They say we must use voting machines with the agenda to steal the election because otherwise many of the people in office would have never been elected. There are many people that are in office unlawfully based upon uncertified, unlawful voting machines. In 2018, Katie Hobbs lost the election the night of the election to Steve Gaynor as of the election day. Then the next day, votes came out of who knows where and showed up, which caused her to become the Secretary of State. Might she have an ethics conflict of being a candidate for governor and also being in charge of the elections at the same time? She's stepping outside of her role for wanting to sue the good people of Cochise County for wanting to count their votes and protect their election. Voting machines can change votes. It's right from the Dominion Manual. The word is fractionalized. Give candidate B, candidate A's votes. That's what it means. People that lie for money or power or evil. Some are here today. Look around. Some could be the attorneys in the room trying to stop the supervisors from doing their job, and they know it, and we know it. The people can see it by their words and actions.
Just tell him.
Okay. I have a significant list of people here that are in favor, but it was the opinion of the people who picked these up that they just wanted their names read into the record. So they're in favor of item number 1. Are you all clear about that? So Dennis Michael Wolowecki, Scottsdale. Solomon Zaglul, Zaghlul, Glendale. Kathy Chappelle, Cave Creek. Erica Prosisi, 12th Street somewhere. Vinnie Paul, Scottsdale. Susan and David O'Daniel, Scottsdale. Cynthia Lash, Phoenix. Barbara Ann Seward, Elmoro Drive, somewhere. Crystal O'Haver, Mesa. Tara Radliff, Vale. Donald Hyatt, Mesa. Lois Janet Sugar, Chandler. Mary Kay Ruete, Wickenburg. Stephen D. Black, Phoenix. Catherine Kostler, Mesa. Diane Marino, Queen Creek. Lou Jean Smith, Scottsdale. Laura Guthrie, Phoenix. Laura Guthrie, again, Phoenix. Laurie Johnson, Mesa. Bruce Phillips, Sierra Vista. Linda Tarbell, Phoenix. Kenneth Firestone, Phoenix. Kyle Wilson, Mesa. Michael Wilson, Mesa. Leslie Wilson, Tower Road, somewhere. Monica Angel, Scottsdale. Delia Anderson, Mesa. Mark Anderson, Mesa. Darren Fix, Green Valley. Sarah Anderson, Mesa. Jennifer Massey, it looks like M-A-S-I, Santan Valley. Aaron Alstead, Phoenix. Roy W. Hyatt, Cathedral Rock Road, somewhere. Teresa Lynn Bauer, Phoenix. Teresa Lynn Bauer, Phoenix. Donna J. Liebel, Liebel, Prescott. Mary T. Frost, Gilbert. Gwen Patterson, Sierra Vista. Terry L. Smith, Phoenix. Oh, I'm trying to be cute when I said somewhere, they just didn't put it on. The next group that I'm reading into the record will be the ones that are opposed to item number 1 on the agenda, the one that it now has on the floor. Leslie J. Cox, Tucson. Mrs. Philip Faringer, Tucson. Catherine Joyce Ori, Tucson. Kathleen Dubbs, Tucson. Neil Norton, Overlook Place somewhere. Nancy L. Norton, Oro Valley. Carol J. Weber, Tucson. Michael J. Brewer, Tucson. Jana Flagler, Bisbee. Margaret Foley Case, Palominas. Patricia Topke, Tucson. Deborah Anbinder, Portal. Linwood Hamilton, Hereford. Sidonia L. Glenn, and Lisa Wilcox. Mary Vaughn Price, Tucson. Joanne Carruthers, Hereford. Lanny Arthur Cope, Sierra Vista. Nicholas Merritt Wasser, WASER, Tucson. Kara Ann Pelletier, Cave Creek. Robert Mays, Hereford. Diane Puff, Hereford. Judy Janak, Sierra Vista. Christy S. Brown, Sierra Vista. Kenneth Byers, Bisbee. Kate Scott, Elgin. Robert Lane, Sierra Vista. Karen Steidenberg Tool, I think, Sierra Vista. Scott Thomas, Sierra Vista. Janet Breen, Sierra Vista. Livingston Sucro, Sierra Vista. Julia Dockery, Hereford. Richard Cassidy, Hereford. William Toole, Sierra Vista. Robert Lane, Sierra Vista. Robert Lane, Sierra Vista. Mary Susan Wasser, Portal. So I think I've read the names into the record of those people who sent in information. We've had a chance to hear from the public that made requests. I think we haven't had an opportunity to hear from the board members except for myself when I asked if we could not consider. So now I think it's appropriate to see what the board members have to say and the attorney. We also have someone online who is with the county's insurance pool, and that's pertinent to what's going on. So which order would you like to go in? You want the board members first and then the county attorney?
Crosby first.
Crosby first, okay? Crosby, you get it.
Okay. And this is primarily to address my colleague, Madam Judd. I was willing to second the motion for item number 1 so that all who wanted to talk about the general issue could do so. However, I would like to ask my colleague, Ms. Judd, if she recognizes that the number 2 agenda item is better. It conforms to the cited ARS section. It conforms to the same citation in the November 4th, 2020 memo from A.G. Brnovich to the Maricopa Chairman of the Board of Supervisors. This memo, which I have here at my elbow, I'm sorry that I couldn't have put it in your hands. This memo uses the ARS section I use in item number 2. And for those unfamiliar with the memo, the Attorney General advises the Maricopa Board of Supervisors to increase the hand count to 5%. So, Madam Judd, in light of your knowledge, do you consider the possibility of both items, or could you vote for number 2 instead of number 1? That would be my preference, number 2 instead of number 1. I believe that the noted statutory hand count process applied to all county precincts is ample to dissuade any tampering one might contemplate. Finally, Madam Chair, I believe we need to ratify the vote in this meeting and a subsequent meeting. That's all I have, and I'd appreciate your comments, Madam Judd.
As usual, I find it a little overstepping bounds by adding a lot of words, and it scares me when I add a lot of words, and I thought about it. I didn't look at your supporting material that you had admitted with your agenda item. So my question would be, who is responsible for this hand count? And my supporting material, I did do it to, I did request that the county elections department or assigned would handle it. So ARS 16602B, can you talk to me a little bit about who would be assigned to do that?
It says the county recorder or other officer in charge of the elections. That is language out of the ARSs that starts out the first sentence of
all right, and that's good.
Number 2.
Just wanted that to be out loud before I start considering. I don't see there's any reason for us to not go with item number 2.
Okay.
Item number 1 is on the floor.
Right.
Item number 1 is
so that's the discussion.
So it
I understand.
voted up or down.
Okay, then I'm ready for the vote if Madam Jed is ready for the vote.
Yeah, I'm ready.
Yeah, I think before we vote, we need to hear from the county attorney and perhaps from ASIP. Would you like to be first, county attorney?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And essentially, my comments would relate to both items, though I don't cite either specifically. It's rare that I write down specifically what I want to say, but I thought in light of the importance of this issue to the citizens of our community, it was appropriate to do that. Fundamental to our system of government is that people may do anything not expressly prohibited by law. The government, however, may only take such actions that are expressly permitted. There is no statutory authorization for this proposed separate hand count or validation. It violates the election statutes and the elections procedures manual. The county has chosen electronic tabulation, as has every other county in the state. And because of that, we must follow the rules for that tabulation to include the limited hand count verification process. The statutes simply do not provide for any other treatment or handling of ballots. We have told you this. The Secretary of State has told you this. Every other county to address the issue has reached the same conclusion, including most recently Pinal County. Ultimately, the legislature is the proper place to address this. That's how government works, not unilaterally deciding to go a new direction because of the will of an admittedly vocal portion of the public. Additionally, you cannot order county employees to violate the law, even if you have come to your own conclusion about what the law reads, despite my advice. If requested, I would advise the other involved departments that they may not violate the law. You've also now been informed, and I believe he's on the phone, that in the event of a lawsuit, the county will not have insurance coverage. My duty, my elected duty, is to the board as an entity, as well as to the citizens of this county, to ensure that the board does not act illegally. I have a duty to defend only those claims which I deem unjust. Because I have advised you that there is no legal basis for this, I cannot ethically defend you against any claims over this action. The board will pay its own attorney's fees, and when opposing parties prevail in their claims, the board will pay those parties attorney's fees. If a court finds bad faith on the part of individual supervisors, you will potentially be personally liable for those actions. Additionally, as you've heard, there's a state law provision which permits any state legislature to request review of a local government's actions, and if found to be in violation of state law, that local government is subject to the potential loss of state funding. I was elected to provide legal analysis. My name is Brian Michael McIntyre. I was born and raised in Cochise County. I'm a Republican. My dad was a Republican. Grandpa didn't talk about politics, so I got no idea. But I took an oath to uphold the laws of the state of Arizona. I have provided you my best analysis that 24 years of being an attorney can give you regarding the status of the law. Because there is no specific authority granted in the statutes or the EPM, the board will violate the law if it votes to approve these items. The board will get sued, and the opposing parties will prevail. I implore you, do not attempt to order this separate hand count. Thank you.
The county insurance pool individual is on the line. Do you wish to add anything to that? I can see your face moving, but you're on mute.
I'm sorry, Ann. Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes, certainly.
All right. You know, there's really nothing more I can add from your county attorneys. Insurance is a mechanism for the unknown. What you're attempting to do is go in the face of your county attorney's opinion. That's what we would call in the Business Intentional Act. It's something that you know before doing it, And it would be improper to expect that the other counties are going to pay attorney bills for that sort of action. So, I mean, I think I was clear in my letter that you wouldn't have insurance to count on. I would not be hiring an attorney for you. It would be up to the county to make these proper decisions as to how they would defend any lawsuits. And in my experience, there will be lawsuits over this. No matter what you do in this situation, there's going to be lawsuits. And that's all I really have to say.
Have I covered all of the participants that wanted to be heard? Is there anyone left? The board members have spoken. Do you want to speak on anything else, Ms. Judd? One thing that maybe I need some clarification. Mr. Crosby wants to go to number 2, which was his motion. You put motion number 1 out there, and it has a motion and a second. According to the county attorney, neither one of them meet the criteria for being a lawful action. Do you still want to vote on 1 and then go to 2, or?
Yes.
Okay, that's hearing from one of you.
And I agree. I think we should. I think we should put them both forward because of all those people that signed up to be heard. That's would be the reason.
Okay.
And Madam Chair, just given that there is a motion and a second, I think absent someone withdrawing their second, you must proceed with the vote.
Yes, we'll proceed with this one. I just wondered if they didn't know that this would go on to the second one. All right, we have a motion and a second. There's no one else that wishes to speak. I spoke in the beginning, so you know how I feel about it. I feel that we need to back off from this and go to the legislature, but I will now call for the vote. All those in favor of ordering a hand count of all 100% ballots, say aye. All those opposed, say nay.
Nay.
Chair votes nay, and it's unanimous nay, so that one fails. Now we go to item number 2, which maybe I could have an explanation to me of how this one is different than item number 1.
Well, madam, you should have read it, but it comes out of the ARSs.
I think we're late and he's getting snarky, so don't worry about it. It's okay.
He's sick too.
Anyway, I'm ready to vote on it.
And
I
No, we
assume
gotta
we
have
have
a
the same
motion and a
advice
second
from
before we
both
can start
both
talking about it.
attorneys.
That's why I'm asking.
I'll make the motion. Madam Chair, I move pursuant to ARS 16-602B, the county recorder or other officer in charge of elections shall take such action necessary to perform a hand count audit of all county precincts for the 2022 general election to assure agreement with the voting machine count. Such audit shall be completed prior to the canvass of general election results by the Board of Supervisors.
Second.
Okay, now I have a motion and a second on the floor. And if either one of you would like to speak first before I go to the individuals who asked to speak on item number 2.
I do want to speak about this meeting today. I heard things like it was a stunt. It's not a stunt. It was a waste of time. I don't agree with that. This is an exercise in what our beliefs are, what our belief systems are, how we come together as a community, and the First Amendment. Everyone is so welcome there to be here, and thank you for your comments. I don't know if anybody thought this was chaos today, but I did hear that mentioned too. I did not. So first of all, for me, this is about the people. It wasn't about, and so how hearing your testimony today actually helped me to think about what do people think and what do they want. And in the voting system, we all understand voting, it's about the majority. My tally actually has some people decidedly ahead of the others by 5% or so in speaking and reading today, and we'll get another chance to tally again in a few minutes. So anyway, it's about the people. It's about our right to vote and have our votes counted and feel confident in the election process. It's about the method, which we have honed down the method to where it is after the election is completely finalized, the vote count has been made by the machines, the people have been notified of who the winners are, then there are people that would like to come in and do that, so, and do the hand count. And the method also would not just be the volunteers who were trained by someone random. Somebody's on. Anyway, the next is about proof. There will be proof of good, positive, look, our election system's great. And some of you don't need that proof, and that's awesome. I applaud you for not needing any proof and having that confidence and that faith. But not everyone has that confidence and faith. And then the last is what we don't have a lot of here today, is trust. I want everyone to be able to trust. And I have been...
Oh, please.
Thanks. Anyway, I have been carefully considering this for quite a while. I do want to make one little mention about why this has come up at this time, and that is because there was just some new evidence. There also was a real desire by our party, and I say that because I'm obviously a Republican, there was a real desire to separate ourselves from what happened in 2020. We all kind of have that in the back of our minds, but we separated ourselves from that for a period of time before this came out. So evidence, things that have just happened. I know there's a lot of feelings in this room, very well expressed. Thank you all for your expressions today, and that is all I need to say right now.
Tom, did you want to say anything else before I open up the speaker request?
Go right ahead, madam.
Okay, Fernando Jatdona. Alex Gulata.
Thank you, board members. Alex Scalata, all voting is local from Tempe. The statute doesn't allow this either, and you shouldn't do it. Hand counts are notoriously inaccurate. There's an NPR article from just a few weeks ago that specifically talks about it. They're less accurate than the machines. We're not trusting the machines. The machines are in fact being validated and verified. Item number 2 is simply a backdoor way to get to what you couldn't get in item number 1. And there's no basis for doing 100% of the precincts, period, under current law. And that's what item number 2 seeks to do. So putting them both on as if they were separate items is actually, I think, just a trick, just a game, just something that is playing the system. And we would recommend that you vote against it. Thank you.
In order to save some time, let's line up again. Jenny Walston, Heather Borman, Elizabeth Bernstein, Elizabeth Segura, Joni Giacomino, Tricia Girardet, Elizabeth Tyndall, Susan Lynn Dalby. The first 10. Jenny Walston, please. Jenny, are you online? I'm going to move right through because it's been a long day so far. So if you don't come up or you don't shout out that you're online, then we'll move to the next one, okay? Jenny Walston, no appearance. Heather Borman. Going once, going twice. Heather Borman. No. Okay, Elizabeth Bernstein.
Thank you. I feel like perhaps what I'm commenting on now is not exactly how I understood the proposals in the first place. And I'm sorry if it was me, but Supervisor Crosby was saying something about going up to a 5% hand count. And I don't know now exactly what's being contemplated, but course, whatever is being contemplated, I don't think it should be, I don't think it should go forward if it's not consistent with the law. And it's, the current thing that's been said is 2%, but it's actually more complicated than that. It always is. There's at least 2 precincts which are more than 2% of our precincts, but the rule about the percents for the early ballots, which are most of our ballots, is something else. So I don't know exactly what's being proposed there. But the other thing that seems to be different than what I was commenting on earlier was that I'm hearing now that there would be no hand tallying of early ballots. All of this would be done after everything else was completely finished. And so it removes some of my objections. Like I think this is going to be much more complicated than people realize. All these errors that we're hearing about, problems with the electric polling books or provisional ballots, or there was an error, human error in the recorder's office, and a lot of ballots are wrong, and it's going to cause having to do with water active management areas, and there's going to be all kinds of work after the election to fix that up. Piling this on top of the elections department is not going to help address any of these other things. All it's going to do is check against the machines, which we already have a check for. And somebody said the humans are always going to make a mistake, and actually that's correct. I mean, when I said that it's always checked out, I didn't mean that the humans always got it right when we do those checks. I meant that sometimes things didn't match up, and then the humans would go back and count again, and it always turned out it was the humans who were making the error. But we're seeing all kinds of human errors, and piling this process to just check a batch of, to just check against the machines is not going to help correct all. It's going to take away from our ability to address all the other problems that I've heard about today. But I think we're underestimating, whenever this is done, how time-consuming it's going to be, how much it's going to compromise ballot security, moving all these things around places they haven't had to be moved before. And I still have the concern, A, that it's not lawful, and B, that if we're waiting to canvass the votes till after this thing is finished, it may damage our ability to actually canvass the votes and get those votes in on time to be counted, because I think we're way underestimating how much is involved in doing all of the voters, all of the ballots, and all of the propositions and everything that's on there.
Elizabeth Segura. Elizabeth Segura, you online? Going once? Nope. Next, Joni Giacomino. Joni Giacomino, are you online? She was before. Not now. Okay. Next person, Tricia Girodette.
Good afternoon again, supervisors. Tricia Girodette, Sierra Vista. I would have some questions about who would actually do it, because it says the recorder or other officer in charge, and we do have an other officer in charge. So would it be that person or the recorder, and who gets to decide? So that's a confusion in the state law in my mind. I will repeat that this may be a good idea, but shouldn't be tied to trying to fit the canvass date. And lastly, but it should be a no-brainer killer, is that it's illegal and would cost the supervisor, 2 supervisors, out of their pockets. So I look forward to your no vote. Thank you.
Elizabeth Tyndall.
Hi, Elizabeth Tyndall, Sierra Vista. 3 things. 1, you've been told it's illegal. You've been told it's illegal by our own county attorney. You've been told it's illegal by the state. Second thing, there are counts in process. There are things that are already part of the process. My counterpart, Rob, and I both participate in LNA when he shows up or when he sends somebody else in his feed. And those are open to the public. And so anyone in this room that doubts anything, including the supervisors, are more than welcome to come and see what happens and check the machines themselves. And then lastly, if we are to do a 5% hand count, we have already submitted our volunteers for hand count. So both the Republican Party and the Democratic Party have already submitted our names for volunteers that are supposed to do that. And that is 6 people and 2 alternates. So if we are to increase the number of ballots that people are supposed to count, then we need to make sure that we can address that problem as well. But really, it's a non-point because you've already been told that it is illegal. So thank you very much.
Susan Lynn Dalby. Okay. Next people, Barbara Jennings, Joel Levine, Radford Hyde, Richard Allen McGaugh, Allison Holzer Morse, Daniel Wood, and Brian Steiner. Barbara Jennings first. Barbara Jennings, are you online? No? Okay. Next person, Joel Levine. Joel, you online? No, Joel. After Joel, we have Radford Hyde.
Thank you again for allowing me to speak. This is Radford Hyde from Sierra Vista. I would just like to remind the board and the county attorney that in all criminal and civil cases, there's a losing side. Half of those folks who are trained lawyers are wrong. They don't get it right. I find it fascinating that we're judge and jury deciding with this advice. And if it needs to go to the court is the place for that decision, not here. And I applaud the county Board of Supervisors for supporting any of these issues for transparency, and they should be commended just for that. Thank you.
Richard Allen McGaugh. Richard Allen McGaugh. No. Allison Holzer Morse. Allison Holzer Morse. Daniel Wood.
Hello, board. That's Daniel Wood again. ARS 11403G. The deputy county attorney's position will not influence or appear to influence the outcome of any matter. To sit here and threaten you saying they're not going to, protect you in these manners when you're acting in good faith is appearance of influence. They tell you this is about law, but yet no one has represented the law in here properly, okay? We're the only ones that have come in here and represented the law properly. We have shown you through ARS 16442 Bravo that these machines, because they're not accredited, the laboratories are not accredited, that means these certifications of them are unlawful. It is that simple. There's nothing to it but that, okay? The fact that your vote, your ballot goes in these machines, it makes it unlawful and unconstitutional. And you have been misrepresented by the Secretary of State, and now what we as a group has been finding by going and talking to all the Board of Supervisors in the state, we're finding that the lawyers are helping aid in that situation. So under 1985 U.S. Code 42, conspiring, that's when I say deprivation of rights. They're conspiring to overthrow this, okay? Under the deprivation of color of rights, we can go after the government official and the person privately, like the lawyer so said after saying they're going to go after you privately. That to me was a threat. I appear that as a threat, especially when you're trying to do the right thing. And that goes with you, ma'am. That's a threat to you too. Because what if this is the other side? What if this is the other side and now they're doing that to you? You see, this is a threat against all of you. I fought for this country and I don't want to see it fall.
Country too.
You're right. And it's your right too to have
All right,
a vote.
please be quiet.
Legal.
That's how it goes. I regress.
Brian, Brian Steiner. Brian Steiner.
Didn't really want to follow that, but yes, ARS 16442B. This is basically case law of fruit of the poisonous tree. So you're about to use a voting system or a voting system that is not accredited, does not, the certificate of conformance. We're talking about following the law. This is higher. If you can't follow 16442B, you can't use the machines. It doesn't matter whether you tabulate them or certified or whatever. It's all, those are invalid. So with that, are you going to defend them when they get sued for using the machines that are not fully accredited? It doesn't matter what excuse they've used. The COVID excuse for not having a certificate of conformance, that's easy to look up. It should be on the line. They provide a false certificate of not conformance, of accreditation. They use poor documentation even though they were fully staffed. Then they come back and say, oh, we don't, that 2-year expiration, it doesn't, we don't have to vet the labs anymore. Instead of every 2 years, they just sunset and expire. It's now forever. It doesn't matter what the new certificates of accreditations were. It's what the certificates of accreditation were at the time, and there was 0. And then it was a fraudulent one at best later on. So that alone makes the use of these voting machines unlawful. So me and my friends have sued the counties and the state 5 times already. And it's like, that's just going to continue. So it's like, are you going to defend them when those come up because they're not following Arizona State Statute 16442B? You can come with any kind of excuse. We vetted this from every which way to Sunday and thinking so many times that I think we're wrong. And then it's like, nope, we got it. There's not one excuse that they've come up. And they're trying to use 52 U.S. code, and I can't remember the rest of it, but it's on the new certificate. It's an invalid, it's an improper use of U.S. code. You can't go and forever certify. I can't sell your house with the wrong signature. I can't do it on a handshake anymore. That's just not done anymore. It has to be done. Everything has to be followed to the letter of law. It's simple contract, and potentially it's consumer fraud by SLI compliance. And we also have Pro V&B in our state, but thank you.
On the jumps. On the junks. No. Jill Hamilton. Jill Hamilton. Robert Paul McGrew, Sr. Joanne R. Care. Tammy Birch. And next, if you would get ready, please, we have Dirk Sigler, James Crawford, Fred Otto, and Tia V. Go ahead.
All right, I'm on. I'm tired. Okay, this is for item 2 on the agenda. I oppose our county recorder conducting and organizing the 100% audit of all the precincts for Cochise County. Lisa Mara is a competent, trained, experienced professional, which follows all the state statutes and manuals. She's my choice if this is approved. There wasn't very many specifics that I could read about this particular agenda item, nor was I felt that Tom Crosby was any more illuminating about it when he had his chance to talk. I also wondering, if you're going to do this audit in all the precincts, how many of the people actually that are for the 100% hand count have actually been trained, have any experience in the hand count, have ever read the state statutes and the procedures and manual. 100% hand count is unrealistic, and I don't believe it'd be done in a timely manner. And how could they even change now from like the 2% to the 5%? Am I done? Oh, okay. Do I have a minute or a half a minute? I didn't see. Oh, I'm sorry.
Siri.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. I
Call
covered up the
Toby.
green. Okay. So I'm just also concerned about voter fraud. And tomorrow on the agenda at 10 o'clock, there's a state grant that will give David Stevens $1 million. I oppose that. He wants to develop paper ballots to be tested. And I don't think there's any fraud. This is an election security grant awarded. I hope it's not approved. Thank you.
Dirk Sigler. James Crawford. Fred Otto. Tia Valenzuela, you said?
Well, once again, I want to direct this to Supervisor Jett and Crosby. Just to remind you that both actions today are illegal. And again, to remind you and the audience, Supervisor Jett, that the person that we're advocating for, Recorder Stevens, is the same person that over and over and over again continues to admit publicly the human errors in his office. And we're going to entrust in him? I don't think so. Vote no. I implore you.
Okay, that's all of those. Let me see if there's a list of people who just want it on the record. Agenda. I didn't have a form for you on this one, Robert. Well, if you want to do two, you got to do both pieces of paper.
That's not protocol. No.
You let me speak.
The idea is for me not to keep people from speaking, but we do have procedures that we follow here, like we don't take any of these after board meetings start. And if you called it in or brought it in ahead of time, we try to keep you in order. And so I'm honestly trying to tell you that if you only turned in one piece of paper, it was for item number 1, and you should have turned in another piece of paper if you wanted to talk about item number 2. So these are the people that are opposed to item number 2. Please be quiet. I'm as tired as you are. Into the record, I'm reading. Opposed, Leslie Cox, Tucson. Philip Feringer, Tucson. Catherine Joyce Ori, Tucson. Kathleen Dubbs, Tucson. Margaret Foley Case, Palominos. Neil Norton, Overlook Place somewhere. Nancy L. Norton, Oro Valley. Carol Weber, Tucson. Michael J. Bruner, Tucson. Jana Flagler, Bisbee. Margaret Foley Case, Palominos. Deborah Anbinder, Portal. Linwood Hamilton, Hereford. Sidonia Glenn and Lisa Wilcox. Mary Vaughn Price, Tucson. Joanne Carruthers, Hereford. Lanny Arthur Cope, Sierra Vista. Nicholas Merritt Wasser, Tucson. Robert Mays, Hereford. Kenneth Byers, Bisbee. Peter Wasser, Portal. And you have to remember that so many of these people wanted to call in, and of course our staff had to do the work of writing it down for them. And if there are errors, then I'm sorry for that. In favor of item number 2, Dennis Michael Wolowecki, Scottsdale. Solomon Zaglul, Glendale. Kathy Chappelle, Cave Creek. Erica Posisi, 12th Street somewhere. Vinnie Paul, Scottsdale. Susan and David O'Daniel, Scottsdale. Cynthia Lash, Phoenix. Barbara Ann Seward, El Moro Avenue, somewhere. Crystal O'Haver, Mesa. Terry Radliff, Vale. Donald Hyatt, Mesa. Lois Janet Sugar, Chandler. Mary Kay Ruetti, Wickenburg. Stephen D. Black, Phoenix. Catherine Kostler, Mesa. Diane Marino, Queen Creek. Lou Jean Smith, Scottsdale. Laura Guthrie, Phoenix. Laura Guthrie, Phoenix. Laurie Johnson, Mesa. Bruce Phillips, Sierra Vista. Linda Tarbell, Phoenix. Keith Firestone, Phoenix. Kyle Wilson, Mesa. Michael Wilson, Mesa. Leslie Wilson, Power Road somewhere. Monica Angel, Scottsdale. Vela Anderson, Mesa. Mark Anderson, Mesa. Sarah Anderson, Mesa. Jennifer Massey or Marcel, M-A-S-I or M-A-S-L, I'm not sure. Santan Valley. Aaron Alsted, Phoenix. Roy W. Hyatt, Cathedral Rock Road somewhere. Donna Liebel or Leibel, Prescott. Sherry Smith, Phoenix. Again, those were the ones that are in favor of item number 2. Now, any thoughts from administration? Any thoughts from board members? We have a motion and a second on the floor. Any other factors you want to mention, Ms. Judd?
Well, the only thing I can think of is I was elected to do a certain thing, and I know many of you in this room probably didn't even consider me as voting for me to begin with, and some of you did, and I do appreciate that. There's risks in everything. There's still a lot of gray areas. I know that there's legal opinion, and in this room there's a lot of opinion. I have been actually threatened a lot during the last few weeks, and today even there's a little in the room. It's really, really tense here, but I'm elected to represent the people in my district, and I have the heart for that, and I actually have a lot of confidence in our country and in our legal system. And I know this is going to maybe really upset people, but when it comes right down to it, it's my choice and the task I've been set out to do and the risk that I'm willing to take or not willing to take. I've done a lot of research on my own. I've talked to a lot of people outside. We have state representatives and senators that are up there rooting for us. Many of them were on the call today. I haven't yet been convinced that as a representative in the county that I'm not representing the people, that I shouldn't do what the people want to do. And I tallied it up, and I have to hand it to you. There was a lot of people here that were very passionate and giving a lot of good testimony, and I learned from all of it. And what was said today is going to teach everyone. It's going to help with legislation. It's going to help move the whole cause of just kind of figuring out what's going on with these machines they talk about. I think all of us are a little curious about it at this point. So I do trust Lisa Mera. I have had canvassed and approved all of her elections till now. I still don't see this, legal or illegal, by the way, as something that's going to hurt our election process, because it's going to happen completely afterwards. It's going to happen on her terms. It's going to happen, and that's what I was a little confused about, was who was our appointed person. I would choose Lisa. I would ask that she do that, and I wouldn't burden her with things. We do have some volunteers. I could picture a lot of people wanting to come volunteer as well from the people that are shaking their heads probably would want to be there for a count just to make sure. So I don't know. I don't know where I am. I could take advice all day and probably not change my mind. But I'd really like to have this chance, take this chance. And my heart and my work has been in it, and I don't feel like I want to back down. So I might go to jail, but oh well.
Tom, do you have a comment?
I haven't.
Madam Judd's points are well taken.
That's it?
That is all. I'm ready to vote.
Okay, then I have one last comment, and I don't think it's been a bad idea for you all to look at something different. I think that you haven't presented me with any specifics on how it will be done. There's been no research, no dollars, no time, in other words, no specifics. And no matter what the issue is, as you know, this is no different from me at other things. You give me specifics so that I can make an informed decision. This is right now, it's an idea. It's an idea that isn't something that I think that is our choice to make. We are designed by the state. We are a creature of the state. They tell us what we can do. Yes, whether you like it or not, that's the way it is. And so if they haven't given us the authority, then we can't do it. And I take that seriously. So I'm going to call for the vote if no one else wants to make a statement.
I'd just like to add, there's a lot of elements involved here when this happens, and I would have been happy to delve down into more of the design, but I haven't been able to get an audience with people that could do that in our county, and I wanted to, but there was no opportunity, so it was not given me.
Well, I think if you want to sell it to the legislature, they're going to want specifics. So if you,
sure,
if you're going to want to move that forward, you need specifics.
But they'll work with me. I do have support from legislators today, many of them. So.
Okay, if there are no more statements, I'll call for the vote. All those in, I want to make sure that's on the record correctly. All those in favor of item number 2, which is the motion is pursuant to ARS 16-602B. The county recorder or other officer in charge of elections shall take such action necessary to perform a hand count audit of all county precincts for the 2022 general election to assure agreement with the voting machine count. Such audit shall, that means shall be completed prior to the canvass of general election results by the Board of Supervisors. So that's the motion. All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed say nay, and I'll say nay, so I'm the negative vote on this one. But there were 2 positive votes. I'll have to check with the county attorney because I'm not sure if we can say that it will move forward if it's been determined to be illegal. Do you have a comment on that?
I think we have to wait until what tomorrow brings.
Do what?
I said we have to wait until what tomorrow brings is what I would say.
Okay. So,
Madam Chair, I do have an additional comment, which is because of the confusion about the cancellation or not of this meeting, I would like this meeting to be ratified as soon as statutorily possible.
I hear you, but I don't know what it means. Next meeting will be on Tuesday, October the 25th, which is tomorrow at 9 a.m. in the executive conference room for a special board meeting and possible executive session. Meeting is adjourned.